And we're already on Twitch, so all right. I think we can start. Let me turn on the face webcam. There, I have a face. So, I want to paint on this. This is an older piece from over a year ago, at least. I don't even know when it... Let me see, actually. I have no idea when I started this piece. The file was made... 10/12/24, so October of 2024. So yeah, over almost like a year and a half, or a year and 4 months. Not bad. That was a while ago. But I really like this piece. It popped into my mind today, and I don't know why it popped into my mind. I just thought it was a cool piece or something. I was like, oh, I remember doing something, you know, ghosts and carriages, although it doesn't actually have carriages. But I was like, you know, I want to work on it because it always felt like a piece that could be polished and using a lot of like, it's a nice mix. I really like it. I mean, I don't want to like glaze my own work, but I like it because it's a nice mix of like hard surface stuff with architecture, but then it also has like these ghostly things and which allow for like a lot of brushwork, and I can get really loose in here. And I think it's just fun. It's also cars, which is not something I typically paint, so it's kind of a challenge. I don't know, it's just a nice blend of stuff. And I want to see what I don't know, I want to work on a bit today. So that's my plan. I'm gonna work on this a bit. Hope everyone's doing well, by the way. Just gonna double check that everything is in working order. So yeah, that's my plan. I did have to go out and find some references though, which I don't normally do before stream, but because this is like a render stream, or it's going to be, there's gonna have to be some, I mean, I only have literally one picture of a reference, which is a car. And it's not even the car that's in the photo, or in the painting, but it's pretty close. Let me see if I can share that. Nope, not that. Not that. There we go. I'm gonna move my... Okay. So yeah, this type of car I like. I think it's cool. It has the little side wheel thingy on it, which is, I don't know. I always thought those were neat. And then, yeah, we're gonna do some old-timey brick buildings, pretty simple. I haven't looked up, I need, like, 1920s London or something. I don't know. Just basically any sort of architecture that kind of is blocky and brick and, you know, somewhere between 2 and 3 stories. Nothing crazy. I don't think I want to go... I'm sure this is an iconic photo or something, but I don't really care about that. Like this building, right? Like this kind of thing, where it's just pretty straightforward. It has some brick architecture, big old windows, you know, like little shops or anything that down here. Anyway, that's kind of the vibe I'm going for, I think. So we will see. I'm going to keep looking for some references. I haven't found everything I want today, but I do think a little bit of references can go a long way. Here's another good example. I don't know if I'll do... I probably won't do any, like... Here, let me make a new layer. I probably won't do any, like, overhang stuff in here. Oh, should be like this. I probably won't do anything like that, because I actually really... I mean, I could, right? If I wanted to do some additional lines going towards the middle. Have some little things sticking up. I don't know if that's the direction I want to go, but I want to really get the sense of, like, these spirit thingies. Maybe, like, old-time horse buggy, you know, sort of, I'm going to use a fancy word, juxtaposed with cars. So, like, horse and buggy, like, because there was a time, right, in history where, like, everybody had a horse and buggy or just rode horses, and then at some point, cars came along. And so it'd be kind of cool to have them, like, the spirits of the horse riders kind of, like, still, I don't know, some sort of storytelling, messaging kind of thing going on. And also just fun to paint, like, spirity stuff. Yeah, yeah, they did mix for a while, but it'd be cool to have uh sort of, I don't know, like the spirits of the horses and stuff. I don't know, there's something cool there. Is that supposed to be a couple of Model A's? I don't know. Is that a Model A? Let me Google it. I don't know anything about cars. Model A car. Yeah, they look pretty close to Model A's, right? Yeah, I would say so. Here. For those who don't know what Model A is, I didn't know what Model A's were until now. Yep, there we go. That looks like it. Pretty close. Pretty darn close. Yeah, I would say so. In fact, we could use that reference almost exactly. That is an extremely good reference for what we're doing. I am not good at painting cars. Cars have always been difficult for me. Although I'm gonna focus more on today anyway, getting the horses and the shapes down. So I will actually, let me find some horses. Got a link in the front. Yeah. There's some issues with the perspective for sure. I mean, this thing was again, it was like a one-day painting, so it definitely has issues. You know, this thing can be more narrow. This thing can be longer. Yeah, but yeah, for sure. I'm actually less picky about making the car the exact model. I do definitely need to work on it, though, because it does look weird and short and stubby. But as long as it eventually looks okay, it doesn't have to look like this car, but as long as it looks reasonable and not completely like a toy, which this does right now. But yeah, no, I've got some work to do. Let me find some images of, like, horses trotting down, horse riders on the street, or just horse riders. Maybe like this. Again, these are just people riding horses. You know, horse riders. I like the, you know, the in motion, you know, not really prancing, but, you know, like anything like this. These are horses running down the street. I don't know if I want, I don't think I would want something like that, because I don't like that their feet aren't grounded. That makes them look like, I don't know. That's weird. I'm just Googling images of horse riders for a second. How's it going? Says Just Fiction. It is going well. So I am going to work on an old piece and see if I can't just have some fun with it. We'll see where I take it. I don't really know. I haven't planned anything other than cleaning up it a bit and making some of these figures look a little bit more horse-like, but also trying to maintain like a gestural, spirity look. I've always had, like, a fondness of painting spirit animals because, one, I'm bad at animals, and if you paint them very spirit-y, you can basically just stick to the gesture. So if all you do is stick to a gesture, then you kind of have this, like, it almost looks like a wispy thing anyway, so it kind of works. So it's sort of like you can do gesture practice, but also there's like just a painterliness to it that's fun. When did you originally paint that? October of 2024. So a year and a half ago, about. Slightly under a year and a half ago. Painted it here on stream, just like all the others. But yeah, it's fun. So I thought it'd be fun to go in and I just kind of popped into my head today, and I thought, you know what, let's paint on that, because it always bothered me a little bit that I didn't have, that it was like pretty in line with like a full-on illustration and like how I would, you know, it has story, it kind of, there's a lot going on, and also there's just a lot of cool stuff that I haven't painted a lot of, you know, animals, cars, architecture. It's a nice mix. It's also, the lighting is very, well, I mean, the lighting is like ghostly, but the color palette is very monochrome, which I actually really like. I like these sort of extremely moody paintings. So it really is right up my alley. But I just haven't, yeah, I didn't finish it. So you know, maybe we'll finish it today. Hope you're doing well, though, Just Fiction and Pepperly. And Industrial Goat, hope you're doing well as well, as Skittle says. It's just gonna be a moment while I'm Googling. Do you guys ever type in the exact thing that you want to see into references and hope, or maybe like don't hope that it appears? So like typing in spirit horses or like ghost horses. Like, do you try to avoid finding references that are the same thing you want to paint, or do you prefer to do like regular horses and then you will use that as a reference and turn them into ghostly things? Or if you don't know how to paint ghostly stuff, you find other representations of ghostly things, but then not finding too close to your reference, but you try to like split it up. Like, here's a horse reference and here's a ghost reference, and I'm gonna do the combining work. Just Fiction says, yeah, I love monochromatic palettes. Gives a sort of mysterious feeling. Yeah, and I think it works really well. I mean, again, not to toot my own horn, but I think it works really well for this vibe of like spirity, ghostly stuff. I think finding a picture of something you want to paint is an opportunity to explore and find a way to do it differently. Yeah, I agree. I just find it really hard to do that. Like, I think if the thing that I want to paint already exists, it's very hard for me to feel to like veer too far from it and actually explore, because it already is there. It's like, well, why, you know, if I had a thing in mind and this thing feels like it's where I might have ended up, then why even go down that path? Because I don't know. So sometimes I like to not look up the references exactly of the thing. So for example, if I was going to paint like a robot dinosaur, right? Instead of Googling robot dinosaurs, I would just Google dinosaurs and then find a dinosaur of, type different types of dinosaurs and then figure out how to turn them into robots on my own. Maybe find some interesting styles of robots that are, or machinery, and combine them and make them sort of explore that area and figure out where I can push it. But the second I Google, robot T-Rex, and I see an image of someone else's, maybe a professional artist who did a really good job, it's very hard to like get out of that as like your goal, right? I mean, even like it might change, but it's almost like that effect in psychology, like the anchoring effect, where like if people are listing prices or something and someone says like 300, and then everybody's price from there, like if you haggle, will be like a little bit more, a little bit less. Like it kind of sets the stage of like where are we starting from. Whereas if I don't have that, I can be like, oh, I can go in and design it myself, and I might end up somewhere totally different because I'm not being sort of like drawn towards this other idea. Anyway, that's kind of what it feels like to me. So I don't typically like to Google the exact thing that I'm looking to paint. I always had like I don't know, it's kind of like I guess it's a sort of personal philosophy, but like if I think of, here, I'm just going to paint right on top of this. If I think of like things like composition, things that I typically reference, right? Color, subject matter, right? I get to choose one or two. Like I'm not gonna say, buildings at night looking downward, right? Like that's not if I'm gonna paint a nighttime scene, let's say that's gonna be in color, right? Night, and this is gonna be, looking upward or something, upward. I know there's more to composition than that. And also, I don't know, horses, right? Horses, let's say. I'm not gonna go and be like, horses at night, or horses at low angle. Like, I feel like I don't want to take three of these, or right? Or if you want to do like a car picture, like, with like blues and reds or whatever, I am not gonna do like blue and red car, right? Like, I feel like that is, I don't know, or yeah, I try to sort of split them, especially with like color. I don't know, I like to split them if I can. I think for me, it feels like I learn that way better, because it forces me to like have some resistance and challenge. Because I'm, for some reason, I've just, it's so easy to slip into like a copy mode. Yeah, in fact, I noticed this about myself even with things like, well, actually, I really noticed it with something like Duolingo, where it allows you to like peek and like see what the word means. So they have like, you know, something in German and it'll have a sentence, right? It'll be like something, 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 and then there will be a word that you don't quite know. And maybe you think you know it, but you're not quite sure. And like everything I know about learning says that you should guess, and then you should allow yourself to be wrong, and then you can learn from that, right? But they allow you to click it and peek. And there's like this temptation to do that, and then I peek, and then I get it, and then now I know what the sentence is, and I can translate it super easy, but I never force myself to learn this, and the next time I don't know the word either again, because it's like I didn't really learn it. Like, yes, I technically revealed the information, but it never like stuck in my brain. Whereas if I get it wrong, it's just, I don't know. So like finding ways to act, or like even in translating, right? Duolingo, again, I like using Duolingo because like I think there's some cool things about it. But it has all these things that allow you to make it easy and not actually good for learning, right? Or like if they'll have like a sentence, right? And they'll have you translate it. They show you all the little words that you like, the bubbles of the words that you have to rearrange, and you have to put these words into the blanks. But once you look at what words are available, you can basically start deciphering it without actually knowing the language at all, right? Because you can be like, oh, well, there's only one thing that's, you know, is talking about being angry, so I assume, and there's a character involved, like, you know, my uncle, so it's probably something about my uncle being angry, right? And it's like you can kind of just start piecing it together without having to actually understand what you're reading. So I will actually put my hand up and cover up my screen so that I can't see any of the words being translated. And then I will have to translate it on my own, and then once I'm confident or think I have the answer, then I will go back and I'll put the words in where they go, right? So I have to like actively make it harder on myself. Otherwise, it's just I'm not going to learn it because it's not challenging, right? It's like a puzzle with the solution next to you or something. Like that's not. I don't know. It's. I really have to resist peeking. I'd rather just not have it as an option. Or if it is an option, you have to like have some friction to go through. You know, some hoops to jump through. So anyway, that's my little ramble about this. And this is why I think with references, I don't like finding the exact references. And even this is like surprisingly close to what I want. But with horses and stuff, I pretty much need them because I'm not good enough yet. But yeah, anyway, that's my ramble. Thanks for coming. Oh, I even had a scene I should have put up for that TED Talk. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna just do some gesture sketches. Sketch right on top of this. As you said, I do agree, and I will usually look up references of things as they are. Gotcha. Flying Fox, hello! Rant. Yep, that was a rant. Sometimes I'm completely out of ideas, though, and I try to find other artists, if other artists had done something similar related to the topic, or to the subject. I'm not generally a super creative person, to be honest, because it makes me understand what ways one can go about the concept, and then helps me kickstart some actual ideas on my own. Yeah, I mean, I definitely also get the compulsion to like look at other people's work and like see what other people are doing. But I found that for me, it's just, despite it feeling good, like everything about me wants to see what other people did. I just like, historically, I just don't get as good results. I stay too close to it. But yeah, it's funny you say that, Just Fiction, about not being like, you don't think of yourself as a very creative person. I never have really thought of myself as that either. Like, the only way I have any sense of creativity is by just going through the process of exploring, ideating, asking questions, you know, learning to ask questions like, what if this, what if that, you know, what if this horse had wings, what if this horse was made of lava? And it's like, okay, well, what would that look like? And then I problem solve it. And like, I don't think of that as like, I mean, that to me, that's what creativity is now. Like that's, but like, I don't come up with good ideas at the start. Like that doesn't, I don't ever feel like that happens. But it's more of like learning how to design, and I don't know. That's always been my experience. So yeah, but yeah, it's funny because I've definitely have never like all throughout learning art, and you know, obviously I'm still learning. I'm always learning, hopefully. But yeah, all throughout learning art, I feel like that was always the hardest part for me is like, what do I paint? Luckily with stream though, I forced myself to like, well, I'm gonna stream something, so I gotta come up with something. And I started, you know, at first I tried planning, but I'm like, you know what, we're just gonna do it live on stream and figure out what we're gonna paint. And it didn't always work, but I've gotten better at it. Actually, I've gotten a lot better at it. Oh, I heard something. Flamingo check. Hey Skittle. Howdy, howdy. 25 stream streak. More than two. It is more than two. That's a lot more than two. How are you, Skittle? How was your day? I mean, is your day over? No. There's a hydrate too? Oh, perfect. Hydrate. I gotta hydrate. There do be a hydrate. Little Fox Art, how are you? Let there be two foxes. There are two foxes. There's a little fox and then there is a flying fox. Amazing. It's 7:24 p.m. for me and Skittle. Nice. It is evening. I guess your day is almost over then. Maybe. Although no, because Skittle streams super late, so he streams in like into the night. Except flying foxes are actually bats. Wait, really? That reminds me of the thing I learned on Casey's stream. Well, actually, I didn't learn it because I can't repeat it without getting it wrong. But it was something chicken. A chicken something is not actually a chicken nor the thing. It's like a, oh gosh, what was it called? There was an animal that had chicken in its name. I think it had chicken in its name, and it also had another animal's name in its name, and it was neither of those two animals. It was like a chicken duck, and it's not a chicken nor a duck. I don't think it's that. It's some, I forgot, oh, gosh, what is it? I mean, I know the animal was actually a frog, but it was called a chicken something. Hold on. Or maybe it was called a chicken frog and it's not a chicken. No, it's not that. Mountain chickens. Mountain chicken. It's yeah, I think it's mountain chicken, and it's not. It doesn't live in the mountains, nor maybe it does. Maybe it does live in the mountains. If I recall correctly, Casey was saying it doesn't live in the mountains, nor is it a chicken. And it's funny because I think that's great. Anyway, names are weird. Common names of stuff are silly. A lot of people who came up with them didn't know what to call them. They just relayed them to something else they knew, but then it turns out they aren't actually those things. Like maybe it sounds like a chicken, and so people named it before they ever saw them. If foxes could fly. Alright. So I'm kind of just sketching here, and I don't really know how I want to do this. That's a good one for a guessing game. I do not live in the mountains, and I am not a chicken. What am I? A mountain chicken. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It is funny. I like that stuff because it's so counterintuitive. It's why when people name, I mean, this is why when people name things, you can't assume stuff, really. It reminds me of when, like like Pluto, you know, what happened to Pluto, the demotion of its status as a planet into a dwarf planet. Well, if I recall correctly, like a dwarf planet isn't actually like it's not a planet. It's not just a small planet, right? Like you might think, oh, a dwarf planet would be like a small planet because dwarf tends to mean small and like planet is planet. So surely it's a small planet. Well, no, it's not actually classified as a planet at all, right? So it's not a planet, but it has planet in its name. So, or you know, in the category of the thing that it now is, it also isn't the thing that it, you know, like one might be led to believe that a dwarf planet is a type of planet, but I'm pretty sure it's not. I could be wrong, but it's just not a planet. Like it's anyway. I always thought that stuff's funny, where it's like the way we name stuff, even after we're like, oh wait, we got it wrong. Let's make sure we get it right now, and then we rename something to be more accurate, but it's still in the new name. It sucks. Like, why not just name it something completely different that doesn't have the word planet in it? Anyway, I love naming conventions because people literally just make it up, and yeah. There's a sea creature called Portuguese man-o-war. It ain't a man. It's not fighting a war and can be found in various oceans, not just around Portugal. Yeah, that stuff's fun. Okay, this is a very tall horse. A tall horse. So I don't want to make these things too, wow, how cool is that? Did I make it today? No, I made this in 2024. Ghost horses. I have no idea how to draw horses, but I'm figuring it out. I need to find some horse for gestures. Yeah, I made this in 2024, and I want to work on it a bit more because it's very, very loose. And I always thought it would be a cool finished illustration, or at least a bit more finished. And so, yeah, I want to just work on it a bit. I think it'll be fun. Let's see. Let's see. I need to find some better references of horses. Or maybe not. Maybe I should just start over with the horses. It's tough because a lot of the making them look ghostly is to like keep it loose and gestural and not do the big forms. Oh, I should find like horses walking by cars. NYC horse riders. They should be next to cars, right? Surely we'll walking down the street with horses. Horses. It's a horse, of course. Hold on. I'm trying to find references of people here. Something like this, where you have like horses walking down the street, so I can see the relative height. I know there's better ways to do this. Probably, I just could literally look up the stats of like how tall horses are. But there are images of horses next to cars, right? And so like you can see that they are indeed taller than the car. And so the back might be also, I don't know how tall these cars are compared to old cars, but I imagine the back of the horse might be like up here, right? But even if they're a little bit big, that's okay. I think I want them bigger, taller than the car, because if they were the exact same height as the car, and I realize these cars are probably like this tall, like the ones in the photo. Oh, you guys can't see the photo. There we go. But yeah, like these cars are taller than like these cars, so they were probably like this. The horse is probably the same height as the car. The problem with that though is I don't want that. Like from a composition point of view, like I want the horses to be taller because that's gonna allow me to create more like, you know, a greater variety. Maybe there's a horse right here. I don't know if I want to add another horse in here. But anyway, it could be something like that. I think those old cars were pretty tall. Yeah, I think they were too. But that's okay. We're still going to make them smaller than the horses. You have check note syndrome. Yeah. Honestly, some medical conditions are named badly, though. Oh, yeah, lots of things. Anything that has, like, a common name is named pretty terribly. So anything that has a scientific name underneath it, and even those, sometimes the scientific names are, like, not very good. But generally, it's the common names that suck, because people, you know, they talked about the thing before they understood it, and so they named it based on, like, you know, oh, this thing sounds like a chicken. It must have chicken in its name. We're going to call it the night chicken. And then it has nothing to do with chickens. It just kind of sort of kind of sounds like one. And like before they ever saw it. And then we learn what it is, and then science renames it to have a scientific name, and that to sort of group it with other things that are more like it, and then, you know, scientific name is far more accurate. So yeah, common names just tend to suck. Whether it's for, you know, like diseases or medical conditions or plants or animals, like they just, I mean, it makes sense, but it's always amusing to me. I like it quite a bit. You think common names are cool though? They can be. But I mean, you can have one thing that's like, you know, a certain species of something. It can have like 5 different common names depending on where it is you're talking about it, right? Like the common, I don't know, deer where you live, it might be a different common deer where I live, and so you just call, oh, that's an elk, but it's like a different thing entirely. I mean, it's still probably in the same like family of things, but it's, you know, like what, or if you call something like a whitetail whatever, you know, your white-tailed deer might be a different species than my white-tailed deer. They just happen to both have white tails and be vaguely deer-like, you know, like, and so it's, common names are tricky, especially if you're doing like any like this was a big thing in I can't give any good examples, but when I was studying landscape architecture and with plants, so plant common names are like, they're really, really generic, and even things that are more specific, and like, you know, like a red oak might be a totally different species than another red oak, because it may not even be an oak, right? In one spot, in another spot it might be an oak, and you might call it a red oak. But another type of, you know, on the other side of the US, it might be a red oak. It might not even be an oak at all. And you just have like weird things like that. I mean, I don't think that one's true. I just made up red oak. But things like that where you have a common name that sounds like it should be the same everywhere, but it's so different. And it just adds to confusion, and it's sloppy, and it's not always accurate to, you know, I mean, it's kind of like a Douglas fir isn't a fur, if I think. Pretty sure. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't remember. But yeah, there's lots of funny little things like that. I've always liked that stuff. Okay, this is going to be a fire hydrant. And this is a horse. The nice thing about spirit horses is you don't have to make them super horse-like. They can be very vague. But I don't want to over-render it, because I do want them to have a loose wispiness to them. But I'm going to have to make them kind of accurate. In Europe, elks are moose, kind of. The German name for moosh is elch. Okay, interesting. That makes sense, kinda. I mean, it makes... I can understand how humans do things like that, right? Especially with, like, you know, back before the internet, you know, somebody might have traveled somewhere where there were elks, saw an elk, and were like, oh, we have those at home. And then, you know, they go back home and like, hey, did you know that they have this, that they call these things elk? And people are like, oh, I like the name elk. And then everybody starts calling them elk. And it's like, it's not an elk. You're wrong. You just thought it was similar. You know, that it's the meme. Oh, the elk we have at home. Or they, you know. But I mean, people make mistakes, and also sometimes it's, you know, sometimes the specifics don't matter, right? Like if you have a bear at home, you might, and it's brown, like why not call it a brown bear, you know? But it doesn't mean it's the same brown bear as my brown bear. But I think even that though, we've gotten a lot better at like understanding how common names are more just like descriptive names rather than specific. But although it's funny, maybe not in. I don't. Maybe it just depends on like the community of people that you're a part of. Because I know with plants, so like my grandma and one of her good friends, they were very into like plants, and they would talk about them. But of course, they only talked about it the common name, and they were very they treated it like those were the only plants that could possibly refer to the names that they were saying. Um, right, because they were, I mean, they were very serious about plants, and they loved knowing what kinds of plants things were. But they, like, if I were to Google the plant names that they said, I would get different plants because the, like, their common names were common for lots of different plants, right? Like, it's just, it's very interesting how that works. And so, yeah, it was always a thing that would pop up in like in design, where if you're doing like planting designs for a place, you couldn't specify just based on the common name, because, or if someone asked for a certain type of plant, right, you couldn't just go and order that plant and make sure that you can plant it. You'd have to like make sure you show them a picture, because you could be very wrong, or they could be wrong. And that was a big one, right? People think they know what a plant is, but they don't, because it's just, you know, it's hard to know. Like, yeah. Anyway, identifying stuff. It's fun. Also, there's kind of a movement here, which I like. Some horses. It's a horse. Okay, I'm definitely gonna need some better references for these, but I am starting without too much reference. I mean, I have references literally right here, but I'm not good at using them. This horse feels like it needs to come down a little bit. I gotta figure out which horses are walking away from us. I think this one will walk away from us because it's facing into the scene. This one will face towards us because well, yeah. And this one is too prominent in the scene to be facing away from us. I feel like if I paint this horse facing away from us, the focal point will just be a horse butt. And I feel like that's kind of... I mean, maybe that's good, though. I mean, it's not good that the focal point will be a horse butt. But it might be good in the sense that it will make it less interesting, and it'll kind of be just like a passing scene, right? You'll have, like, this horse can end up being the real focal point, maybe, which I'm just now adding, because it's going to be, you know, facing towards us, but not too strong of a silhouette. And then this one, maybe it is just the horse butt. Do we have ghost people on them? That way it just feels like they're in passing, right? This one's coming towards us, this one's going away from us, right? They're just kind of wandering through the street, doing their own thing. Uh-oh, I dropped some frames. Let me pick them back up. But yeah, I like this painting a lot. I'm hoping that it turns I hope that it turns out better the longer I work on it, you know? It should. I mean, you know, I think I've even probably gotten better since I've painted it. And so as long as I'm not settling... Also, this thing has got to get out of here. It's in my face. Let me see if I can't find some better images of horses riding. Or people riding horses. Go like that. There. Like my cat isn't the same as your cat? True. Also, I don't have a cat, so that would totally make sense. But even if I did, it would be true. Horse galloping. Images. Do I want galloping horses? No, trotting. Horse trotting. Trotting is slower than galloping, right? Yes. That's what I want. Trotting horses. This. They're just like chilling. Feet are on the ground. Right? They're running through. They're hustling and bustling. And maybe some are meandering. Maybe this one's trotting. Okay, also this looks like an AI horse. This is totally AI. Hold on. Let's get rid of that. I can tell it's AI just from the look. It wasn't even close to not AI. Good. Alfred Afterburner, hello! Welcome, welcome. How are you? Good evening, Cool Perspective. Thanks. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one. I made it over a year ago, and I want to do some cleanup on it and some polishing and sort of you know, I guess build on the storytelling because I had like these spirit thingies that kind of vaguely look like horses. Let's see if I can show you. They vaguely look like horses. This is what it started as. And so I want to come in here and sort of make them look more like horses, but also try to keep a looseness. So this is not gonna be what it ends up looking like. I'll probably even make it more obscure than this. Because I still am gonna want it to vaguely look like horses, but not like super defined. So yeah, it's kind of fun. It's a fun painting for sure. And I'm happy with how it's going so far. I do need to be careful not to make it too bright, even though I'm painting with white. I'll want to go back in here and probably color pick some of this green and sort of add this green over the top of things to like break up some of these shapes. So tamp down some of the craziness. But yeah, how are you, Alfred Afterburner? Hope you're doing well today. I hope everyone's doing well today. What's everyone up to? Who here is painting anything today or doing any art? I say painting, but I always mean drawing. I know not everybody's always painting, but to me they're synonymous. They're the same. They're the same because it's just making art with you know, your hands. You know, with a brush or stylus or pencil or paintbrush. Doesn't really matter which is which. It's all the same to me. Kinda. I'm painting my friend's OC. Oh, that's fun. You haven't picked up the pen today. Are you going? Do you plan on it? That's really cool that you're painting your friend's OC. Is it... Do you do that a lot, or is it like a... Do you feel like it's more of a special occasion? Where, like... Because I know some people have, like a friend group who does a lot of OCs, and they constantly paint each other's OCs, and it's just kind of, like... It's just good fun. But then sometimes it's more of like, oh, my friend made an OC, and they've never done this before, so I really wanted to paint it. Alfred says, I'm doing quite all right, thanks. I also like the time setting. Can imagine that it is a bit of a puzzle defining a district shape, but also keeping it undefined. I think it already hits a good balance. Yeah, I kind of like the vibe of the buildings. I'm sure I'll do a little bit more to them, but I want to focus in on sort of a looseness with like the spirit horses and keep it very painterly and whimsical kind of. I don't care how much detail these are really if it's not the focal point. So I'm gonna focus more on, you know, this area. And also the spirit horses are making it a little more bright, which is kind of fun. Just slowly making some horse silhouettes back here. Looks like 1930s Budapest. I never got Budapest from this, but I could totally see that, maybe. I don't know much about what Budapest looks like. Definitely 1930s. That's probably spot on. That's kind of the references of the cars that I was gathering, so. Haunts. There's a bit of a line here, and I'm not sure why. A little bit of Brandenburger, the vibe. What's Brandenburger? What's that? Let me Google. Brandenburger Gate. Let's just type in Brandenburger. I don't know anything about Brandenburger Gate. Images. What is Brandenburger? Oh, that is okay. Oh, yeah, a little bit. Also, Brandenburger totally has horses on it, doesn't it? Look at this. There's horses. I can see why it has a similarity. It has a little bit of not arches, but like tall thingies. Yeah, so this is no specific place. I basically just made some buildings, and then I put little arches in them. And then, yeah, that's basically it. I don't even know why I did that. But yeah, I could see a bit of that. Very cool. Yeah, my goal... Also, hi, Recriner, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Yeah, my goal definitely is going to be more with the storytelling, which is already coming together, in my opinion, quite nicely. I have so many references here. But let's work on... Let's do this car. I don't like that this car is like the exact same pose or same layout, but I think it will work. So I'm just gonna go over it a little bit. Yeah, this needs to be a little bit longer probably. I mean, it could be foreshortened, but yeah, cars are hard to paint. Perspective is hard, and cars are just hard. Also, this isn't the exact same type of car, but that's okay. It's pretty dang close. It's more about the vibe. Now, I don't want the cars to look like ghosts also, right? I gotta be careful. It could be ghost cars, but I don't want them to look like ghost cars. So I gotta be careful with how I'm sketching them in gesture. But I think as long as I add a lot of... because they're gonna have shine, right? And so they will have, like, gestural looking lines in them. Right, lots of shine. But I think as long as the lines are much more crisp. I think I made it worse. I think I made it worse. The dynamic poses of the riders are already very cool, I think. A very nice movement in the scene. Yeah, thanks. I'm happy with it. It's always been something that kind of stuck with me ever since I made it. Of like, oh, I think there's some fun storytelling of like the horses trotting around. Hey, Kath, how's it going? Hello, hello. Happy today. Happy Monday. Ghost horses. Yeah, ghost horses. Gorses. Gorses, yes. How are you, Kath? Long time no see on stream. Okay, something about this is just not right. It's all wonky. But yeah, I'm revisiting an old piece. I'm excited for it, kinda. Pretty excited for it, actually. I'm doing good, wrapping up some work. Nice. Nice, nice. Hope the wrapping up is good, going well. You know what? I think it would be kind of cool to have these ghost horses passing through the cars maybe a bit. To show that they're occupying the same street. But maybe that'll be like an after effect type thing. I'll do it after the fact. That way... That way I can make sure... I do it very minimally. One of the things with the way that I paint, because I'm typically painting on top of everything and it's just layering it on top, it's easy to make things have a tendency to get too opaque, like if I go over the same thing too many times, it's gonna start looking like it's no longer a ghost and it's just very, solid. And so I need to keep it quite loose. But I am also going to try to keep it painterly. Something like that, maybe. I do want to also maybe play around a little bit with values, but not color. So the colors are all pretty much gonna be the same. Pretty much. Do we go like this, I wonder? That might be a lot, but not bad. A little bit of a roof thingy on here, like reflecting the sky. Or not the sky, but reflecting the ghosts. Also, what's the scale? Oh, the size of this image is not very big. I should probably do something about that. Oh yeah, that's a nice effect. That little bit of white there, shining the top. It shows this angle here helps show it like it's right at eye level. I think that's good. Now there is a wheel here, and I don't know if I want to put the wheel here. I mean, maybe a little bit. It is a black wheel, so it doesn't really... It's not like you can see much. But yeah, today's going to be a pretty chill stream, I think. It's sort of a render stream a little bit. Joe Bing ignoring my wonderful pun. Wait, haunts. I said... I read it. Haunts. Did you say something else? Maybe I missed it. Wait, I didn't... Hold on, that didn't show up. Would you like to ride the ghost horse? Nay. You know what, Recriner? Oh, I didn't see it. Oh, you know why I didn't see it? Because it's in the stream streak message. And I don't see those very well. Here, I can show you, just so to prove to you that I'm not ignoring... Whoops. I'm not ignoring you intentionally. This is what I see. And there's no message before that. See that? Kappa equals O? Yeah, no, I know that. But, I just didn't see... I didn't see the comment at all, because it was in a notification thing. That is weird. Yeah, it's not ideal. If I have the other chat, if I have this chat, which is gonna show like the weird stream thing. We'll cover it for that. If I show this, then I do see it. Ghost message. See, now I see the message. This one. Would you like to ride the ghost horse? Nay. Ghost message, how fitting. Yep. I try not to miss messages, but it does happen sometimes. And by sometimes, I mean pretty much regularly. But I don't feel good about it. Hold on. But yeah, it is a little strange. You'll just have to yell at me if anyone redeems stuff that doesn't play a sound, or if anyone does like stream streaks. But yes, thank you all for the stream streaks, the watching and arting along, the work and lurks. We'll be muting now. Have a Zoom class, having me on the background, just broadcasting me to your Zoom class. Oh gosh. Is it for German? I assume it's a German class, but I don't know for sure. back to this car. I don't like that I'm painting the exact reference in the car, or this car reference. It bothers me a little bit because I feel like I'm not making it my own. But then again, with like historical stuff, like what do you do? I mean, it's, you know, isn't... I mean, I guess changing color and stuff. But yeah, that's not bad. Can we see the steering wheel over this? I wonder. Now, this does look like the car's a little bit out of perspective. Maybe it's because this wheel is... And now it's... I'm turning it on accident. In fact, this should be more foreshortened. Uh-oh. Probably nobody just raided the channel. Welcome in, raiders. Probably nobody. It's probably nobody. How are you? Probably nobody. Welcome in, raiders. Thanks for the raid. How was your stream? If you were doing any art tax, you can share your art. Welcome in, raiders. It's probably the wind, yeah. How is everyone? What were you up to? We are painting. That's it. We're painting. No, I'm working on an old painting that I did. It looked like this before the stream. Oh, here, let's do this. It looked like this before the stream. I did this over a year ago, and it was like a one-day stream painting, sort of a speed paint type thing, if you will. I don't really know what you want to call it. I was pretty happy with it when I did it. And it's kind of been on my mind throughout the year, or the last year and a half, just like randomly I'd think about it. I'm like, huh, maybe one day I'll work on that again. And I just thought about it yesterday, I'm like, or even today, and I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to work on that. It's about time. And also, it's always fun to sort of, well, maybe it's not fun to go back. I almost never revisit old paintings. It's super rare, actually, that I go back and paint on something. But I did, you know, horses can be fun to paint, kind of, but also like ghostly things are always fun. This painting just has so many things in it that I like. So yeah, it has a lot of things that I really enjoy painting. Architecture. I need to work on some hard surface stuff like cars, but also the brushworky stuff of like ghosts and, you know, spirit thingies and just apparitions. You sort of get a lot of wiggle room with how you approach those things, and you know, that's something that I'm constantly feeling like I want to explore, is sort of exploring brushwork, figuring out how I like to paint this sort of thing. Like anytime you do like painting magic, I feel like there's a lot of, you know, trying to make it mesh with the rest of the thing that you painted, because it's not like you can just paint something photorealistic and then put some whooshy lines over it and make it vibe, right? Like you have to sort of figure out a style or figure out a way of working that makes it all cohesive. And it's always an exploration, and I like it. So anyway, but enough about me. What were you up to? Probably nobody. You said you are doing great. Stream was great. I was doing some studies with your brushes. Wait, really? Would you like to share? I'd love to see. I would love to see. Yeah, the brush I'm using right now is not my brush. It is a brush by Zach Retz. It's quite a nice brush. Although the brushes that I use to make this are the brushes that I made. So this brush, it's funny, I'm actually using a different brush than I originally worked on it. So if you look at the buildings back here, this is not this brush, right? This is a different brush. So this brush is the J Stiller, or just JS Canvas Oval brush. It's this one. So this is the brush that I painted the whole thing with. yeah, this is the brush. It's like a textury brush. Also, hold on, something's wrong. That's better. So yeah, it basically it has texture to it. That green is way too bright. Right, it has some texture to it. If I press hard though, it's completely opaque, so it's not too bad for blocking in. Yeah, this has always been a pretty nice brush. I like it for quick painting, but my problem, especially in a painting like this, is that if you go really light and do like transparent stuff, you end up getting maximum texture, and it actually doesn't, like, that's the one spot you don't want texture typically, is like when you're doing like an airbrush effect, right? So if I'm lightly painting something, I typically don't want the texture, right? And so an airbrush would be better, because then I can lightly paint stuff, right? And I can lighten things up without making it feel like I'm putting texture on the canvas. So that's one reason why I stopped using that brush so much, is because it just it's hard to control in that way. And this brush, which is a Zacharette's brush, does exactly that. If I paint really soft, it actually, you can see the texture kind of go away. Right? There's texture like on the initial stroke, but as I work over it, the texture goes away, and I can treat it as an airbrush if I want. Or I can press opaquely, or I can get texture. So it's kind of a more versatile brush, and so I've really been enjoying this one. Okay, we've got some art text. Oh, this is fun! It's a sheep. I love it. I love this. Look at this. Look, look, look. What a great sheep. Also, the sunset, the colors. It's a sheep. And we've got another one. Ooh, I like this too. Amazing. Yeah, amazing. Here, let me throw some emotes in chat. Hold on. What happened to my stream? 1 second. I'm a mess. 1 second. How do I navigate? I have so many windows open. I'm gonna throw some yeehaws. There we go. Yeah, these are amazing. I love it. Nice work. I just closed that. I didn't mean to do that. I like it a lot. I like the colors. Also, I appreciate how you did like the blending with the colors. Like, these things appear green, but if I were to color pick it, it's probably not super green. And so like all the color harmony, it just works really well to get a lot of grays, and I really, really like that. Great use of grays. Also, and then this one, great use of just color in general. These are awesome. These are very cool. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for the raid and bringing your community over. I'll give you a shout out. / shout out. Probably _ nobody? Is there 2 underscores there? That looks like 2 underscores. But I can't tell. Yeah, okay. 2 underscores. All right. So now, I mean, I like what's happening here. What do I paint on? I mean, this person doesn't look like a person. I mean, this is tricky. On one hand, I like how loose it is, but on the other, I'd like it to feel more like an illustration that's like kind of finished. And so there's this weird mix of like how much detail, or it's not even how detailed, it's more like putting the right landmarks in so that you can tell what things are without putting the detail. So like I'm trying, you know, wanting to imply stuff. So like if this is a horse rider on this horse, right? Maybe there's some super loose, you know, shapes that make it look like a human, but also not enough that make it, you know, like defined. I don't want to like get into the clothing and the wrinkles and that, you know. It's just gonna be big vague figures. And this one is a weird one because it's so close. I kind of like the effect for ghosts that are like, how do I word it? Almost like a time, not a time lapse, like a, like frames. So like if you had a, maybe I can show you in something else. So like if you were gonna have someone walking, right? You might have a person, gosh, this is gonna be, I'm gonna draw stick figures here. You might have a person who's walking, shoulders, arms. This is them walking. This is totally how you walk. This is they look like they're punching. Okay, it's a boxer, not a walker. Hello, I didn't know you streamed. Your art has been a big inspiration for a bunch of people in your life. Aw, Lober64, that's very nice of you to say. I do stream. I've been streaming for quite a long time. And, yeah. So, very nice to have you in. Thank you for the kind words. Glad it's been inspiration. Yeah, I'm working on an older painting. I'm revisiting it today. I'm trying to figure out how I want to paint these ghosts. And I think what I've seen it, people do it before, where you kind of have like it's almost like an animation where you have like different frames all in the same image. So you might have the head bobbing here, or an arm moving this way. And so one frame is here, and then the other one is directly over it, but it's offset. And so you have things like this, and you kind of have this like, and then maybe you have another frame in here, you know, and the head is now going upward, and you kind of have like 3 heads per person and arms, sort of like an after effect of like it going through the air, you know, when it's moving. And it kind of shows like it's almost like the person is like in a time lapse, or in a like a long exposure photo where there's like a glow, a blur to them. I think I kind of like that effect here, where like maybe there's a head here, and then there's like a hint of a head here, and it sort of has this like, this almost like different parts in time, right? Like it's not all just like a full character, but the character is sort of part here, part here, part here. You know, maybe a leg of the horse is back here, but then you have, I don't know, it's sort of that like fragmented look. And I think that's kind of what I want to do. So that I don't have to like make everything super accurate, but also each of the parts that you see, I can still put some detail in there if I want. But I'm not going to put like the whole head. I might put part of the head here and then stretch it and move it over here. Anyway, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Probably nobody says, I talked about you a lot, but I never mentioned you streamed. Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind of you. I mean, I don't mind if you mention that I stream. You don't have to like, oh, you know. But no, I really appreciate the mention. Yeah, that's very cool. Thank you. I'm happy to be of inspiration. I know I ramble about this a lot on stream, but every time people share work or just hang out and paint, well, especially if they share work, there's always things to be inspired from and learn, and I don't know, I just think it's super cool. So thank you guys for being here. That's basically what I was trying to say. Okay, now I gotta think about buildings. This stream is gonna be a little different than the way I normally paint. Normally I paint very quickly, and I do a lot of little thumbnails, and then we refine it, and it's just very sort of like rapid pace painting. This is a lot more deliberate and sort of you know, and not even deliberate, that's not the right word. It's more thoughtful, I guess, is the word. I'm putting more thought into it, and painting a little slower, doing some, just testing some things out, and then I might look at it and I might delete it. That's normally not the way that I paint, but because this is a day 2 of a painting, I'm trying to figure out where I want to take it, kind of. Do you paint in traditional medium as well? I have, but no, I don't do it much. I want to do more of it. But I just really enjoy painting digitally. I actually don't I don't enjoy painting traditionally as much. Digital is just so, like, user-friendly in terms of setup and there's no cleanup. You don't have to have a nice spot all set up for your painting. You don't have to have ventilation if you're painting with oils or something. Like, I'm too lazy for that. I really enjoy digital. I also enjoy the explorative thing, and there's always been something that, like, and maybe this is just like a skill issue, but it's always bothered me to, like, waste materials. And so much of painting, at least the way that I like to paint, is sort of a trial and error. You have fun, you explore, you dump things on the canvas and see what works, and maybe you delete it and who cares, But with traditional paints, I always feel like that's a waste. And it makes it not as enjoyable to sort of, like, feel like I'm wasting my materials. And I know it's not a waste because you're learning and it's how you get better at stuff. But I think when it's sort of like there's a, you have to then order more or buy more paints, and it's more money, and it's hard for me to sort of enjoy the process, if you will, when there's all those other thoughts about it. But I do want to do more traditional one day, and I think I could eventually get really into it. So yeah, it's actually on my 2026 bingo card, is to do more traditional oil paint, or more traditional painting. It doesn't have to be oils. It could be watercolor. It could be, pencil drawings. I do a little bit of sketching every now and then. But that's about the extent of my traditional art. Most of the traditional art that I do is sketches, but also specifically for, like, commissions. If I'm, sometimes depending on what I'm working on, I will have a sketchbook, like, near my bed. And if I, for a while it was like a habit. This is gonna sound weird. It was sort of a habit of mine to, like, try to visualize stuff before I go to sleep. Just like taking a scene, try to visualize it, and, like, add more to it, and, like, sort of see how far I can push the visualization. Because, like, that's not typically a thing that I do. Like, I don't really think about, like, I don't have an idea in my head in that sense, and I don't visualize my work before I paint it. It's mostly done on the canvas. And so I was trying to, like, build up this sort of, I don't know, this skill, right? Of, like, I might do something like imagine a tree, and then you're at the bottom of it, and then, like, imagine myself floating above the tree, and, like, trying to see the tree in my head the whole way. And it's like, you kind of have to construct it in real time. But anyway, so there was a while where whenever I would have a commission, I'd try to, like, think about all the different types of thumbnails and things I could do before. So if I had an idea, I would, like, sketch it down real fast so I wouldn't lose it. And then, yeah. So, but I haven't done that in a while. Sometimes it's like little studies. If I'm watching a movie and there's something cool on scene, I might do, like, a quick gesture or sketch of it or something. But yeah, I don't do nearly enough traditional work. Also, this shape looks funny. Probably nobody says, genuinely, your work flipped a switch in my mind. Oh, that's very kind of you to say. I'm glad. Also, that's very good. In all your years of drawing, I've had such a hard time with backgrounds and focusing on the details. I'm a character artist, and my friend showed me your work, and I watched how you approach painting, and it has done so much for me. Oh, well, that's really nice of them. Or that's very cool that it flipped a switch. That's very nice of you to say. That makes me very happy to hear. But yeah, when it comes to detail, I mean, this is something that I can rant about so much about detail. I think it's overrated. I there's so, and one of my favorite topics is like human perception and how we see things and think about things, and you know what's actually in front of us versus how we remember it and how we perceive it. And so much of our experiences is not, it's not rooted in the details. Like, you don't remember the details of stuff, you remember how you felt, right? You don't remember the specifics typically. Sometimes you do, but you oftentimes remember how it made you feel, and what contributes to that is like a whole nother thing also. And like, there can be context, and maybe you were just in a good mood, and so that's going to color your experience. It's not just like, oh, there's an old house and that's a haunted house, but like, if you thought it was haunted, you're gonna feel a different way about it. And so a lot of times it's more just like, yeah, it's kind of impressionistic-y, if that's even a word. I like to think of painting sort of like a, yeah, but then of course there's the fundamentals, right? There's a lot of like perspective and forms and light and shadow and compositional stuff, and of course all of that plays into how you feel about a thing, you know, from the colors you use to the marks that you make. I don't know, it's cool. I think there's just a lot of, I think environments are not that complicated. Like, I think you can... Here, I'm going to go on a rant here. File, new. I'm going to make a new file. Like, to me, an environment, if I paint 3 characters, that's an environment, right? Like, here, character number 1, character number 2, character number 3, right? This, to me, is an environment. Like, I've basically, you know... I've created a space. Oh, Jed Talk scene. Hold on. I've got a scene for this. This is my rant. Yeah, but yeah, no, I think environments can be super simple, right? Like, I think people think they have to be this like complicated thing. To me, it's basically just a 3-dimensional space. Once you put like a ground plane, you know, put some shadows on figures that you draw, and suddenly those shadows create the environment, because they're creating the ground, you know? It could be 3 hills, right? You could have a hill here, and a hill here, and a hill way back here. Or here, even better yet, let's put our characters on a hill, right? Right? That's an environment. We've made 3 hills with 3 overlapping shapes, a foreground, midground, background. You know, obviously there's things like atmospheric perspective, and so you might get lighter as you go further back. But like, environments are so, I feel like people treat them like they're this super complicated thing. And a lot of times it's because, you know, we look at like a tree and we think of, oh, there's so many, you know, there's a big cluster of trees and there's so many needles and branches and things, but it's like, it's just a big, like, in a distance it's a blob, right? You see a vague tree shape thing, and we call it a tree, but like, that's not really what we see. We see these like big clumps of stuff. So yeah, anyway, it's environments, I feel like, sound a lot more scary because you feel like you have to paint everything, but a lot of times it's just getting that sense of depth, you know, those overlaps, those, you know, shapes, that's also, this looks like a gigantic character, what the heck. You know, getting a sense of scale, getting a sense of sort of feeling like you're in a place where you could, you know, this thing is farther away, or this, you know, there's something in the foreground here, you know, whatever it is, trees. Like that's all gonna make an environment feel like an environment. And I don't know, I think it's hard, it's not easy to do, right? There's obviously a lot to it, but nowhere in here am I like drawing the leaves, you know? Like, that's not important. At least not to me at this stage. There is a stage where this can all be important, but I don't think we're there yet in the painting, right? Like, we gotta... Anyway, so that's my rant. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Oh, there we go. I also made this as like another layout thing. I don't really like it. I'm not a huge fan of this layout, but it was fun to work on. I learned stuff. So yeah, there's another layout that I made. This is like a chill layout, but it's... I'm going to probably redo it. I'll revisit this layout. I don't think I'm ever really going to use it. But I made that the same stream. One day I will revisit my layouts. You can do both. Can learn a lot more from traditional than digital for sure. Maybe. I don't know about learning more, but I mean, yeah, you could definitely learn from both. I mean, in some ways, I think learning from traditional is, I want to say, easier because you have limitations, and so those limitations, it sort of, it feels more fundamental. Whereas when you like especially with like digital and color, I think that's a nightmare because you jump into color and digital and you have literally every color at your fingertips, and if you don't know what you're doing, like how do you make a choice of which color to put on the canvas, right? Like you have all of them. Whereas in traditional, you kind of just have to work with what you have, and so you're kind of required to think about colors a little differently. And so for color, I think digital is a terrible way to learn, personally. Although if you're adamant about learning color, then, you know, you might feel like you have to go out and figure it out because otherwise it's going to be a mess. But yeah, no, I think both, there's just good stuff. I mean, everything you do there's stuff to learn from. I don't think it matters what medium you use, generally. How do you make the choice to make those things in the midground completely black? These? So the way that I typically start is by making everything like these are completely black, right? Oh wait, hello, wait, what's happening? It's a sub, Basilisk. Hello, thank you so much, Basilisk. Basilisk, how are you doing? So when I block in a painting, a lot of times I start with big graphical shapes, right? So I will start kind of like I just did here, where these things will just be literal shapes, right? This thing will be a shape. This thing will be a shape, right? I'll have basically 3 values, right? Dark foreground, light background, you know, that kind of thing. You know, maybe this is a house, and so I'll paint a house shape, right? Oh, I am certainly doing, LMAO. Improvement every day. Oh, that's good. Yeah, Basilisk, it's good to see you. Skittle says, I think aside from learning the tools of the medium, digital and traditional are both grounded in the same fundamentals. Yeah, I totally agree with Skittle. I think they are grounded in the same things. Also, Skittle, I don't know if I ever said it, but congrats on partner, by the way. I think I said it on your stream, maybe, but yeah. Anyway, congrats. But yeah, no, they are grounded in the same things. And yeah, I think digital can just be a little more overwhelming, and I think when you're... The thing I always go back to is, like, I think if you're trying... A big thing of learning, at least for me, is always, like, trying to isolate the thing so that you know what it is you're trying to learn, right? It's a little hard to, like... I don't know. Focus... I'm trying to think of an analogy. Like, if there's multiple things happening at once, like multiple variables, it's very hard to focus on one when you're also being influenced randomly by another. And I think digital, the struggle with that is that if you're a beginner and you jump into digital, yeah, you're basically fighting with the tools, and you just don't know how to use them. And so if you make something and let's say it turns out poorly, do you know, is it bad? Like, did it turn out poorly because you're bad and you don't know stuff, or is it just because the tools are unfamiliar and you haven't learned them yet? Like, is it a skill issue, or is it like a knowledge and tech issue? Like, it's very hard to sort of tease those apart, I think, if you're brand new to digital, because you don't know why your art's not working the way it is, right? yes, your brushes are going to feel clunky, but also maybe you're just not making good art decisions, you know? Maybe it has nothing to do with the brushes. And you don't really know what you don't know, and so it's hard to sort of even diagnose the problem. With traditional, most people grew up learning to draw, or learning to not draw, sorry, learning to write. And so you kind of know how to hold a pencil, you know how to make marks, right? It's very primitive, and there's not a lot of like tech issues, you know? It's not like the settings are wrong. It's a pencil, right? Like you put pencil to paper, and so if something isn't working, you can at least know that it's a skill issue, right? Like it's a knowledge and skill issue. It's probably not because it's the wrong pencil type. But anyway, going back to the question, how do I know to like make something pure dark? Well, I don't, and I probably won't. I probably will lighten it up, and I'll add like a light to it. But a lot of times when I start, I block stuff in, and then I'll add like lighting effects in. So I'll lighten stuff. I'll add some, you know, some light will come in here and fill up the scene a little bit with some ambient light. You know, there might be some darker spots. But yeah, no, I just start with blocking in shapes, and then I will add in those like a fill light. So I tend to think of painting painting a scene almost like almost like a modeler, kind of. Like I start out with like sculpting some basic shapes, and then from there I might do like a simple lighting pass to like get the form. So almost like you're building a house, right? You start out with the walls, and you get some basic, you know, here's the house. This is the worst house I've ever drawn. Here's the house. And then I might add some, or how do you work? So okay, that's a bad example. So like maybe starting out with like the wireframe of a house, right? So like here's the house. Right? We've got a house. And then from there you cast like a light on it. And then maybe, you know, this part's in shadow because the light, and this part's a little bit lighter because, well, there's a light on it, right? And then from there you might do something like the colors, and then, you know, like you kind of build it up. And this is sort of the first step for me is like the shapes, right? And then from there I might put a light on it, and I fill up the scene with a bit of light. So if the sky is blue, for example, that blue light is shining down into the shadows, so there's a little bit of blue down here, right? There's going to be a lot more blue back here because it's, you know, it's going to fill up the scene with that sort of atmospheric perspective. And then if we have like a direct light or something. So typically if I'm leaving something just as a graphical shape, it's either because I didn't think it was necessary to put light into it, like this tree. I just haven't gotten to it. It might be the case that I want to come in here with like a green or something and just add a little bit of fill to it. So it's like me adding some additional lighting in, just lightening it up. It's still in the shadows, but it's slightly less dark. Because most stuff in real life isn't pure black, right? So there's a little bit of light hitting it. And so sometimes it's just a matter of waiting. And so if I come in here and I just make some random shapes, you know, maybe there's some stuff here, whatever it is. So really, I typically start very graphical. You know, I might add some additional colors in here. I might come in here with like a, you know, purple or something. And I'm like, oh, what if there's some purple flowers? So I put some purple in here, right? Very lightly. But maybe there's some light somewhere in there, and I think that the purple should be a little bit more bright back here, so I put some more in there. And there's a lot of color mixing, right? I'm thinking about, like, how is it affecting the light and the color? Anyway, so yeah. Just random shapes. But anyway, that's kind of how I approach colors and why I start graphical. You know, you can kind of do the same thing. Hold on, let me... Oh. One second. I see a question, and I'm going to answer it in a second. Or, like, you know, I might start with, like, a sphere, right? Sort of this process where I just make the shape that I want, and then I start thinking about light and shadow. I might add a little bit of shadow. I might add a little bit of light, right? Until I add those light and shadow... Oh! What was that? I heard a noise. No, I didn't. maybe not. But yeah, until I add that light and shadow, right, it's just a solid shape. So sometimes that solid shape is dark, sometimes it's fairly light, but it always starts almost as a solid shape for me. Anyway, that's the ramble. Okay, the question is the freedom of digital painting or the restriction of traditional medium benefit? I mean, I think both. I mean, I think for different stages, I sort of have my idea of digital is that I mean, I think it kind of depends on what you're learning. But I think in general, like I think for total beginners, I think traditional makes sense to learn more because it's more sort of isolating. Like it's sort of simplifying. Digital doesn't feel like it's super great for a beginner, but it also has a lot of depth, so it allows you to learn and play and explore with tools that maybe you didn't even know you had control over. So digital can be super nice for like exploration and you know, it's also nice for like problem solving and figuring out different ways of working. You know, you can try lots of things, so you get sort of quicker repetitions. I don't know. I don't think it. I think they're both good for different reasons. I don't think one's better than the other. Yeah, like yeah, painting on one layer is a good way to learn. You know, that's very similar to how traditional is. You know, obviously with digital, you might use things as crutches. I went on a mini rant about this earlier, with in regards to something like Duolingo, where you have sometimes if you want to make the most out of it, I find myself like covering up the screen when I read the thing. So like Duolingo will say like translate this, and it'll give me a sentence, right, in German. And then down below there will be, and these will be words, you know, so there'll be words here. And then down below there will be like blanks. There won't be blanks, but there'll be like a spot. And then I have to use like, I have to take these bubbles with words in them and I have to put them into the line. Well, the problem is that I can already see what options I have, and so it's not a real translation, right? Because it's so easy to cheat, and so I have to like restrict myself by covering this up with my hand, right? So that I can try and translate it without taking a peek at what the options are, right? Like having a multiple choice just makes it so much easier. And digital, I feel like, is a little bit like that. You have to be a little careful because it's really easy to sort of have the program assist you to the point where you're not actually learning as much as you think you are. Yeah, I'm learning German, Alfred. Not very good at it yet, but I feel like I'm better at reading it than I am speaking it, but I also don't want to try to speak it on stream because that's embarrassing. But yeah, also it's an art stream. But yeah, so I do feel like with digital you have to be careful. It's very easy to like get the dopamine hit kind of from like, oh look, I did a thing and it made it shiny, therefore I'm getting better at art, right? And it's like, well, maybe not, you know. Maybe you're not actually learning color theory when you know, slap color dodge on something. You're just sort of like relying on this thing that does a thing, and you don't really know why it's doing what it's doing, or you know. So it's sometimes you have to actively restrict yourself, like painting on one layer, or no undo button. You know, allowing yourself to be very deliberate about your mark making, or else you're stuck with it, right? That's like there, you know, if you draw traditionally, you don't get the undo, so you learn something. It's not to say you can't learn that with digital, but it's much less likely you're going to learn it with digital if you are allowing yourself to use all the tools. And so I do think there's a bit of like self-restriction type thing that digital benefits from, and just being aware of that as a concept. So yeah, in general, though, I don't think there's technically anything traditionally that you can't learn digitally. Whereas there's probably some things digitally that you can't learn traditionally just because there are some tools that you literally, I don't know. I mean, no, I think fundamental-wise, you could learn both either, so it doesn't matter. I don't know. I don't think it matters one way or the other. Just have fun. Pick what you want. Excuse me. Okay, I gotta catch up on some comments. I'm a little bit behind. I think it depends on your preferences, totally. What feels the least overwhelming and most comfy? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it also depends on what we're talking about, right? Are we talking about, like, I want to get, my goal is to be a professional and I want to get really good, right? Because then, like, kind of going back to my point with digital, sometimes I think you have to get a little uncomfortable because it can in some ways makes it so comfy that it might be, you may not be having the resistance to like push you forward that you would want. Whereas like traditional, if you're struggling with something, there's not always an easy fix. Sometimes it's just a matter of like, you got to learn the thing, And so that resistance, I think digital can feel very comfy for some people, almost to a detriment. I don't know, but then again, if you just want to paint and have fun, then who gives a crap? And like Baslo said, like, do what's comfy, do what's the least overwhelming. And yeah, you don't want to like stress yourself out, you want to enjoy it. And if you can't enjoy it because it's too stressful, then, maybe do something less overwhelming. And, a lot of it comes down to like what you want out of art. I mean, it's this conversation is very similar to like, hey, I'm looking to get into digital. What tablet do I use? It's like, well, I don't know. Like, pick one, try it, see how it works. It's tough because there's a lot of personal preference stuff going on. Pavik, hello. Bless you. Thank you. Alfred says, well put. You are very good in formulating complex ideas and breaking them down. You should think about streaming. Thanks. I'll give it a thought. I'll consider it. I will consider it. I certainly have the most trouble with colors when working digital. Yeah, I think digital for colors is like, it's awful mode. It feels like it's super unforgiving. Color it's a nightmare because again, it's just, there's no, like, one of the biggest advices is to like use a limited color palette. And it's not just because like, in some ways that's the way it just happens to be. It feels like it's a pure coincidence, but the real world, like, that's kind of how light works. Like, you have like one primary light source and maybe a secondary light source like the sky. And so you kind of have these two separate light sources, like a light from the sun and a light from the sky. And you don't get, like, no matter what color you have, they're being mixed with those colors, right? So you have like a blue sky. No matter what color you put in your scene is going to be mixed with a blue sky, right? If you have green grass, guess what? It's not just green. It's green in the shadow, so it's dark green, but it's mixed with blue, and it's a little bit of a blue-green, right? So the resulting color is like this blue-green, right? And as you go further back, it becomes more blue-green, or even in some cases just more blue. And suddenly, like, by mixing your colors, you're getting new colors, right? You're getting these colors that are mixed with your light, right? So here's your green mixed with blues, and then if you have a light source, let's put some light in here. Let's make some lights like this. And your light is, say, very, very white, right? You might, or like a white yellow. Your greens, now if I put a green in here, right? It's going to be a light green, but it's going to mix with this bright yellow, and it's going to, lean towards that. And now you're going to get like this very, it's not going to be everywhere, but you're going to get like a very, very light, color, right? And of course you're going to have some shapes and stuff, and there's going to be some shapes going here. But like, that there's sort of this, like, no matter what color you put in here is going to be influenced by this yellow sun. If it's a red flower, you're not just putting red in here and red in here. you're saying, okay, this red flower is mixing in with this dark color, like this dark shadow color, right? Because it's influenced by the shadows. So it's very, very dark. And up here, it's being influenced, and so it's very, very bright, right? So you get like almost an orangey color up here. It's not this color, right? You're not putting this color in here, right? You're allowing that color to mix. So in here you have these dark red flowers, and in here you have these bright orangey red flowers, you know, and of course there's wiggle room. You can up the colors if you want, but like the colors are being affected. So this is a limited color palette, right? I'm allowing the colors to mix with my yellow sun, and I'm allowing the colors to mix with my blue sky, and I'm not just picking any random color from the color wheel. And this, I think, just by pure coincidence, is basically how color mixing in traditional works. You're basically just doing the thing the light is already doing. And so I think when we go to digital, if you don't have that, you're suddenly jumping into the deep end, and you don't have this just happy coincidence that like of color mixing. So color mixing is so important. So yeah, mix colors, folks. And of course, you can't always just mix colors. Sometimes you do have to like logic through why a color is the way it is. You know, so like that's where you sort of do need to know some about color theory, typically, and it helps anyway. But yeah, no, it's digital color is tough. I think it's by far the hardest thing to learn digitally. Whereas like perspective and stuff, I feel like is not bad. It's probably easier to learn it traditionally still, though. I don't know. Yeah, no, they both are good. I like both. That's a common issue in learning a new language. This piece makes me think of a tabletop RPG called Blades in the Dark. Oh, interesting. It would work really well as a set piece for it, actually. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so Basilisk, this is actually... I was actually thinking about sort of tabletop RPG illustrations. That kind of made me think about this as this piece, which is why I'm revisiting it. Because it has a little bit of that storytelling, but it's also a bit painterly, and it just has stuff. It has qualities that I like. I think it's yeah, and I kind of wanted to work on this for that reason. It just felt like it was. I mean, ever since I painted it, was a painting I kind of wanted to revisit. I should probably get better references for this horse. Druffzillus, you took so many notes. Oh. Also, you just rated, so like if you have to go away and I'm not trying to get rid of you, but like probably nobody, if you need to do some after stream self-care, get some food, stand up, stretch, you know, wander around or whatever, feel free to like, you know, you don't feel like you have to stick around. But I do very much appreciate you coming in. Druffzilla says, with digital, I feel like I need to be more aware of the method. True. LOL. Yeah, no, I'm definitely not trying to get rid of you. I just want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. And, yeah. With digital, you need to be more aware of the method. Yeah, I think so. Because I think there's just more ways to work in digital. Like, you have so many options that if you're just doing things sort of willy-nilly, like I think traditional kind of forces you into certain methods or practices that are pretty optimal. Like, again, I feel like it's kind of, it feels almost lucky. Like I could imagine another world in which the basic tools that you have are not actually good for doing the thing you want to do. And like you would need more advanced tech to even begin. It just happens to be that like limited color palettes are really good, you know. It happens to be that learning to make choices in a very deliberate way is a good thing to do. Like there's all these benefits of digital that just are baked into how, like, the way it is, you know? I don't know, it feels like it's just a good way of working. So yeah. Yeah, Blades in the Dark is a game with a setting in a sort of gothic horror Victorian London. Oh, very cool. There are ghosts, vampires, monsters, gangs, etc. It's neat. Oh, awesome. I'm learning so many things. This is self-care in a way. Fair enough. It's all a matter of perspective, I suppose. You zoom in very far all the time, so I need to consciously check the thumbnail view. Yeah. Yeah, I know some people will bring up like a viewfinder and they'll stick it on their side so that they have their little navigator. I think there's a navigator, isn't it? Like view. Where is it? I see fit to navigator. No. View. Wait, can I move this? Weird. Window. Navigator. So yeah, there's this other window here. Oh, you guys can't see this. There we go. There's another window here that some people will use, and they'll just like stick it up. Wait, what happened? I don't know how to do it. Oh, yeah, there we go. So some people will do this, so as they zoom in, they can still see their navigator here. How do I make this larger? I don't know. Hold on. There's got to be a better way to do this. Here. I don't know. But they'll do something like that, so as they zoom in, they'll still see it up here. They can still see the full image. That's not a bad way of doing it. I don't typically use that, but I also don't typically zoom in that far. Because I think I've sort of convinced myself that zooming in is bad. And so I just stopped doing it too much. I still zoom in a little bit. But yeah. Zooming in is definitely like a thing a lot of people have to consciously restrict themselves of like, you know, intentionally working small, or, you know, little boxes of thumbnails is a nice way to do it, where you have, you know, a big old canvas, but then you say that you're gonna work within this box. So even when you zoom into your canvas, the box is still relatively small on your screen. And so, yes, it might feel like you're zooming in, and it sort of satisfies that need to like zoom in, but you're still actually working in quite a nice small format. That's another way that some people do it. You know, thumbnailing, it sort of forces you to be a little smaller. Yeah. I like this method of making little boxes, little thumbnail boxes, because it does feel like this is my screen. And so if I make my screen fit my screen, right, it's now fitting my whole screen, this is me not zoomed in, and this is me zoomed in. And so me zoomed in is actually not zoomed in, right? Because this is not, yeah. So it's kind of a nice little like mental trick, I guess, if you're used to working on a full image like this. You just paint your image within a bigger image. So literally make a blank canvas, maybe put some random brush strokes that you're not going to use, and then treat this as your whole canvas, but your brain will still think about this as the canvas, so you'll be sort of like allowing yourself to work smaller, because it'll feel like you're zooming in. Anyway, that's kind of what I think that's a fun little hack. I don't know if it would work for everybody, but it's kind of how it is for me. Okay, I should probably work more on this. I've been sort of rambling and not doing much painting. Maybe a little character here. I don't know how much characters I want in these. Like, do I want to be able to see them very well? Like, do I want, like, you know, the characters to have elbows and hands and stuff, or do I just mostly want them... I'm not really sure. Definitely a little bit of exploration to figure out how... So this person looks like they're sitting side saddle. It's kind of silly. Wasn't really intentional. But yeah, it definitely has a little bit of London vibes, like 1930s. It's incredible spawn for the vibe. Oh, I appreciate it, Basilisk. Yeah, I have the navigator window on the top right of your CSP. Nice. The only thing I miss in digital painting is the texture of the brushstrokes. True. That's a big one for people. I've been using Rebelle, which emulates it quite well, but the feeling of the brushstroke is something... Yeah, that tactile feel of, like, the bristles hitting the brush. That is a big... That's one thing that a lot of people really struggle with digital, just like the tablets, because they're plastic on plastic or plastic on glass or whatever. There's, like, a slick feel to it with rubbing a stylus across the screen. It just doesn't have the same tactile response, you know? Yeah, it's, you know, textured paper is not really a thing. I mean, technically you can have some sort of textury tablet, but again, that ends up just destroying your nibs because it's like sandpaper. You're literally taking your nib across the textured surface. And that's not good, typically. So, yeah, that can take some getting used to. I know a lot of people, even people who work professionally and primarily do digital, a lot of them will still do their sketches traditional for that reason, because it just feels better for them. I'm kind of the opposite. I think if I ever do more traditional work, it's going to be I do my sketches digital, and then I will do my finals traditional. But I like that exploration stage in digital. I feel quite comfortable working digitally, so traditional is less comfortable for me, but yeah. Okay. Do we want people on all of these? I think we do. I'm kind of just blobbing in some people. Gotta be a little careful here. I actually don't know if I want a person on this one. I think I should, actually. Man, drawing people is tough. I know their legs go around the horse. And again, I don't know if I want to draw the entire, like, leg of the person. Because, again, this is like a ghost. Or kinda ghostly characters. But it still might be nice to just block it in at the start. I do like this. Gotta be really careful with some very loose brush strokes. Ooh, maybe we can add some, like, motion of stuff, like scarves flapping in the wind. Like character leaning over. So it's that feeling of like a horse running. Not bad. Yeah, very, very blurry. But it's kind of fun. This is something that I haven't done a ton of this sort of painting where you do very like blurry, loose painting. I feel like with like lots of brushwork is something that I've sort of always lacked a little bit, or not lacked, but like neglected, I should say. Or maybe not brushwork. Maybe that's not the right, like that polish, like where you're sort of finessing the painting, for lack of a better word. I'm heading off for today. Frederick Afterburner, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the good talks. Auf Wiedersehen and bis zum nächsten Mal. Man, I'm so bad at pronouncing things when I'm not in the when I'm but yes, Auf Wiedersehen to you too. Danke. See you next time. Take care. I appreciate you popping in. Okay. I think I like this where the focal point is. The car is kind of weird. The car is kind of weird. I think here I can probably put some subtle reflections. Let me find an old fire hydrant. 1930 fire hydrant. Is that a thing that Google is going to know what they look like? Ronald just raided! Welcome in, Ronald! Ronald, I was lurking in your stream earlier. How's it going, Ron? Welcome in, Raiders. Ron, I hope you're doing well. For those who don't know, Ron does world building, and lots of it, and it's just a super cool stream. You were, thanks you. Yeah, I was. How did it go? I hope you had a good stream. But yeah, so Ron does a lot of world building stuff, a lot of creatures and characters and environments, basically everything, and just yeah, like sort of builds up worlds and stuff, and different places and characters based on themes and all sorts of stuff. It's super fun. Also has good talks about world building and design. I think you were talking about when I was in, it was, let's see, what were you talking about? You were talking about some a dinosaur and how little is known about a certain type of dinosaur, and sort of yeah, something like that. I forgot what exactly we're talking about, but it was very cool, very insightful, and yeah. Ron is much smarter than I am when it comes to anything like historical or even like, yeah, just lots of stuff. Ron's great. The Spinosaurus discussion. Yes, it was a Spinosaurus discussion. That was it. Yeah, that's when I was lurking. But yeah, how was your stream? And I'd love to see what you worked on. So Art Tax, as always, you're more than welcome to share. Speaking of taxes, I gotta do my IRL taxes. I haven't done that yet. Should probably do it. Kind of creeping up on the time. The Spinosaurus mirabilis. Yeah, I don't really know what a Spinosaurus is, hardly. World Building 538 Graduate Seminar. Art official Lee. Wait, hello, Art. Wait, Art official Lee. Wait, is this the same? Hold on. Is it? I gotta. Do I know who you are? Have you been here before? Because there's an Art and a Lee who is. Okay, it's not you. Never mind. Because there's an Art of Lee, and then there's also, there is somebody who. Oh, I just closed my streamer bot thing. Whoops. Whoops-a-daisy. And the person I was thinking of changed their name all the time, so it's, yeah. But anyway, yeah, Artificial Lee, hello. You are more official. You are more official. You know what? The other Lee's not here to defend themselves. You are more official than them. Anyway, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Fish and Dead Boy says, just discovered in the Sahara. Oh, cool. Okay, I didn't know that. Ooh, okay, I saw you just starting to sketch the... Man, you work so fast. Okay, this is Ronald P. Maxwell's art. Look at this. Our Apex Predator Ice Sentinel. This is so cool. Yeah, I saw you sketching this out just like right at the start, literally from a blank canvas. And I mean, it's a great speed. I love it. I love how fast you crank these out. It's super cool. No pun intended. It is an Ice Sentinel, so definitely cool, but okay. He works stupid fast? Yeah. That's cool, though. It's funny, because I've been told that I paint quickly, although today I'm painting very slowly. I'm like... I flipped the whole thing. I'm doing the opposite of what I normally do today. But, yeah, no, this is gorgeous. I love it. Great. You know what? One of my very first digital paintings ever was an ice character. And it was bad. I did a very bad job. But it was a good job at the time because I learned stuff and it was one of my first digital paintings and I was still, you know, learning stuff. And, you know, I don't do a lot of characters, but I tried. And yeah, no, it's, this brings back memories a little bit because, yeah, just ice characters and, yeah. Very cool. Very nice work. It's hard to see, but there is a smushed creature under its foot. Oh, dang. Yeah, I don't see it, but I'll trust you. I don't think anything you try and learn from is bad. True, true. Well, I mean, the experience was great. It was completely a net positive, but the art itself, like, in all... Like, the art sucks, but that's fine. It's not, like, a bad thing. It's a good thing. Isn't that, like, It reminds me of that, Wreck-It Ralph thing, like, I'm good and that's... Or I'm bad and that's good. Being bad is... I don't know what the exactly... I don't remember, but basically... Yeah, no, I think it's good to make bad art, right? Making bad art is a good thing because that means that you're trying new things and getting out of your comfort zone, and you're trying it new in such a way that you are failing occasionally, and it's good to fail occasionally, and it's not a failure actually. It's a good thing. Failure is good. It's not really failure. Anyway. This piece right here is amazing. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm slowly building it up. It's something that I'd like to call a finished piece at someday. Also, this is going to be a fire hydrant, so I'm just going to make some shapes. Little fire hydrant shapes. Classic hydrant right there. I'm bad and that's good. I'll never be good and that's not bad. There's no one I'd rather be than me. Than bad. Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit like that. It's sort of just flipping the idea of what good and bad even means. And this is something that's always a struggle, I think. You know, all of our lives, we talk about fail as like, that's the worst thing you can do. And then there's also the concept in like learning new skills of like pushing yourself and trying new things, and like failure is required and it's not bad, and yet we still view it as the worst thing ever. So it's hard to sort of break that mindset when it comes to learning stuff, and in something like art where you're never really going to paint the same stuff twice, right? Like you're always sort of doing new takes on it, and it's always a little bit new, and there's always the fairly high chance of making something not look great, at least on your first try. And so you almost have to redefine what failure even means, because if you use like more normal definition, you're gonna be very depressed because you're gonna fail a lot, because that's how art is. Which kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the very start of the stream with like common names for plants or animals or viruses, where like, you know, different people will have a common name, but it has like multiple scientific names attached to it, because what a common name is for you might be a different animal entirely for someone else who has the same common name from different regions or areas, or like it's just, you might even refer to a bunch of different things all as the same thing because you just don't know any better. And it kind of reminds me of that, where like it's just a messiness with words, and you have to like, if you just go about the normal way of speaking, you're likely to be getting things wrong, and it's imprecise and messy. And yeah, I think just having multiple words for, you know, failure in, you know, there's multiple meanings of that word, and we all just kind of use them all the same, and they all blur together, and we don't really think too much about it. Similar. Chaos Wranglers. We are Chaos Wranglers. That's a sounds like a band name. The Chaos Wranglers. What am I doing? Maybe I'll clean some of this up. I don't really know where I want to take this painting, or like when it would be called finished. I genuinely have no idea. I'm just kind of slowly building it up, and I'll probably let it sit for a while. You gotta get to some stuff. Good seeing you. Yeah, thanks for popping in, Fishing Dead Boy. I appreciate it. Good seeing you. Enjoy the rest of your week, or your Monday. It is Monday, right? Yeah. This is a little weird, that this thing starts so high up. Shouldn't we have this light come all the way down? That way it feels more like in perspective. Now there sure is a lot of light under this car, which I don't know if I like that. I also should probably paint some horse hooves. Hooves. Gotta think about how horse legs work. Like that. But then they go this way. And then they have like a hoof that goes that way. Okay, let's see. What else? We've got... Also, there's a random foot here. Which I don't mind, actually. Random limbs, just like there. Kind of gives that ghostly feeling. Also, maybe we should add some a little bit of light in here. I don't really want to put a lot of shine or rendering, but, you know, it might make some sense on some of these more shiny objects. Yeah, I don't know if I want this stuff to be pure darkness or not. It is hard to know. This is a giant horse, by the way. Probably too big. Sounds like a monster. So, hold on, let me find out some more images. Okay, I found an image of a horse walking away. And we can definitely make some better shapes here. Feels very Clydesdale, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, Clydesdales are massive. They're quite neat. No, it's a moose. A moose? I didn't draw a moose. I hope not. Does it look like a moose? I remember when I drew my Christmas card, everybody thought I drew a moose instead of a reindeer. I just want to say I'm loving your cars. They feel very proper, actual artificial car. Very proper, actual artificial car. Is that good? I hope that's good. Artificial? I mean, that's maybe bad. I mean, I guess cars are artificial. But yeah, no, it's something. It's not terrible. It's very loose. I still need to probably work more on the cars, but your guy could be. They could be riding a moose. I don't think I want them to be riding a moose, if I'm being honest. They feel like a construct, not an organic thing. That's a good thing. Gotcha. I see. So they don't feel as organic. They feel more like, yeah, that's good. Okay, this is not. Yeah. I got what you're saying now, Ron, and I appreciate it. That's a nice thing. That's a nice compliment. Yeah, luckily with like these ghostly horses, I can kind of just make some shapes and sort of our brains will hopefully fill in the details a little bit. That way I can keep them pretty gestural. And like I can use like gesture in like the tail and just like make some lines and leave it there as lines and it'll work. And actually, this way of painting where I'm just erasing the thing that I'm working on is actually not a bad way to do it here, because then I have like a bits of horse up here, but like I've erased, but not very well. And it's kind of creating these like ghostly artifact things, just by nature of the way that I'm painting it, which is kind of neat. Okay, this shape though doesn't look good. You gotta get the horse up here, and also the person. Doesn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, that's one of the things I really enjoyed about this painting, or am enjoying about it, is this sort of this contrast between like these hard surface things and more painterly stuff, but then you also have some architecture and some modern things, you know, like horse riding with modern, you know, lampposts. There's just kind of a cool contrast. And this is very much, you know, this is something that I'm sure Ron talks about probably a little bit or has in the past, sort of like combining, you know, modern and ancient things, or combining organic and inorganic things to sort of, you know, or taking two things that are sort of in conflict with each other in some ways and like smash them together, and you get like a new thing that is it. I don't know, like it's just a fun. I think it's a really cool way to work where like it sort of forces, I don't know, it sort of forces you to think about how those things would feel, and I don't know, there's a lot of cool stuff that happens when you do that. Absolutely topics I cover. Heck, right now our biome is all about that. Yeah, it's cool. Or like you could have like I like to think of like natural processes, so it could be something like, you know, a volcano erupting in a city or something, and what is that like, how does that affect things? You know, you have this organic molten rock, you know, burning things and destroying things. Or it could be, maybe it's not lava, but maybe it's some like, I don't know, something else, right? Something else that isn't very natural, and it's, you know, affecting things in a certain way. And it, you know, what happens if a toxic gas, you know, started coming up from the sewers and spilling into the cities? You know, suddenly the streets are evacuated and you get this eerie emptiness of a city that is not something you would ever see, right? Like an empty New York City or something, where it's like there's not a person around in sight. Like that would be a really interesting sort of feeling, to have a ginormous city completely like everything is functional, but there's just nobody there, right? I know some movies have, you know, there's a lot of movies that have done that with I think a good example was like 28 Days Later, where, you know, he wakes up and it's just like the streets are empty, and it's like there's nobody, and he's just alone in the city pretty much. It's kind of an eerie, weird feeling, and it's like that you can get to that place by basically asking questions and saying, what if this happened, what, you know, and then just follow it. You know, it's cool. Imagine, if you will, a biome where raw magic pools at the surface. This chaotic magic radically alters anything that comes into contact with it, so things go oddly new tend to come. Yeah, that's cool. I've always enjoyed, there's a I don't know if you want to call it a trope or what you want to call it, but it's a thing I've done before, and I think I've seen it in other things, where you have like like a pool that is of some sort of magic, and like things drink from the pool and they're affected, and so like the wildlife, the plants, the animals are all sort of like, as you radiate out from like this central pool of magic source, you kind of get these changes. Maybe it's like mutation type things or powers or whatever. You know, you could take that where you want, but that's always a fun idea and a fun way to think about it. And maybe different types of magic that you're, you know, of these different ponds that you're drinking from, of these sources, you know, maybe each of these different sources of magic all give different traits, and so, you know, you have these different creatures drinking from different areas, or being maybe not drinking, but maybe just being around the magic source. Like all of this, like this type of thinking is just so fun to like speculate of like, oh, what would happen? It's neat. Okay, let's do making some people, or not some people, but a person. Just kind of trying to sketch in the shapes. Again, not super clean or anything. It's very gestural. But yeah, that's cool, Ron. Siren says, oh, also, hi, Siren. Hope you're doing well. Tossing people into a primordial pool as a punishment alongside something they hate to look like. Yeah, world building's fun. It just honestly, it even just the like even if you're not doing the like designing or anything and you're just thinking about it, it's sort of a fun thought experiment. It almost gets into like not philosophy, but it's sort of that same mental exercise of like thinking, hypothesizing about stuff and sort of uh, suppose this, and then you sort of follow through on this train of thought, and there's a lot of that, and it's a very fun just mental exercise to take things and say, what if this happened, what if I did this, what if these things were combined, what if there was a you know like what if, I mean, this happens a lot in like fantasy with magic. It's one of the reasons why fantasy is so fun for me, because what if you had this power? It's just literally just like, what if you could fly? What would you do? What would you still go to work every day, or would you like, okay, how would the world change if only you could just teleport, or if you could turn invisible, or if you could fly, or whatever, right? Like if you had a superpower. It's sort of that, right? It's like the ultimate world building exercise is just like putting a wrench into the world and saying, how would things be different? What would you do? And then you could just imagine, like you could tell a story of like how you would explain it, or how, not how you would explain it. Like, would you keep trying to explore your power, or maybe you would hide it, or maybe you would just like quit your job and just go travel the world and have fun and like steal or for money or something, or for food. Or maybe you wouldn't need food, because maybe your power would be something that would like make it so you would be food wouldn't be an issue, and you know who cares, like you would just go and camp and just survive and just like live anywhere you wanted in a tent, and you could just travel around. Like it'd be maybe it would completely change the way you'd live, or the world. It would look differently. Anyway, there's lots of cool things to think like that. Yeah, this car is probably not a great shape, but it's not terrible. One thing I'm trying to get better at, or I would like to get better at, I don't know if I'm actively trying to get better at it, but it's not so much that I'm trying to get better. It's something I'd like to find more examples of, is loose painting artists who paint very loose and painterly, but are really good at like landmarking. So landmarking in the sense of like this, right? So I have like a big shape over here, a big light shape, right? All of this is light, and then all of this is dark. But within it, you do very precise things like this shape in perspective, right? Making sure that this arch is in perspective. And then once you pass these landmarks, like this corner here, this little thing here, then you can go crazy with like texture and looseness, and you can blur things and blend and whatever. But this little tiny spot is very precise, right? We talked about this a bit with like roofs of buildings. If you're doing a lot of like city stuff, a lot of times you'll see like like if you have a lot of little buildings, you might be very precise with some of the shapes of the roofs, right? Because some of the roofs are going to be in perspective, right? So you need like these angles. Oop. Right? Like you might want these angles to be very precise, but then the rest of the building you can kind of do whatever, because like you need the perspective to show, And so if you're doing like lots of overlapping buildings, you might do these little like landmarks. And maybe, again, maybe you have lots of little things over here and maybe some more buildings. And so you have lots of little shapes here and there. But then you have like, you tease out, you know, maybe there's some light back here on the roofs. And so you're, you know, and so maybe some of the roofs and light, but you know, you might be very precise with these angles. And so it's kind of it's that where like you allow yourself to be very painterly, but also occasionally you need to go in there and slow down and be very intentional. I mean, that's something that I want to learn a little better. That's Lasso. It is, but it's not about. So for me, it's more about where do you put those landmarks, right? It's not so much about technique, but it's more of like how far can you push it, especially on certain things, right? Like an organic shape like this. Like what needs to be in focus? You know, is it the joints of the leg of the horse, and then the rest of it doesn't matter, or like is it certain lines that show the gesture of like the, you know, the gestural lines, and then the rest of it doesn't matter. And it's sort of this like trying to be very like sparing with which landmarks do you put in, right? Maybe the nook of this part of the saddle is important or something, and you put like a little hard edge here and everything else is soft. Or maybe you don't need that there, or maybe you don't want it right there. Maybe you want it right here, a little hard edge. And so you blend that in, and then the rest of it's soft. I don't really know where to do that. Like it's not about like if I know that I want this to be a hard edge, I have a million ways I can make that a hard edge. But it's more like why? When do I make that choice? And that's the thing that I think I struggle with a little bit. And I know there's some things around, you know, like shapes. There's some, you know, good theory around, you know, if you have like a cube. Hey, we got somebody chatting on YouTube. Little Leo, how's it going? Like, I know if you have a cube, for example, and you were to fill it in. Actually, I could probably just do it with a square, but I'll do it with a cube instead. Right, if you had a cube here, I say if as if this isn't a cube. Right, so we have a cube, give it some lighting, very simple lighting. I don't know what's happening with this lighting. Where's the shadows going? Maybe this way? Anyway. So, like, trying to figure out, you know, like, where can you blend these shapes? You know, what if I blended this corner? Does that work? Well, if I do blend it too much, then it might start looking rounded, right? So maybe you need to maintain the corner. And I kind of know that, you know, corners, there's also some fun, like, science around this of, like, what things do we pay attention to? You know, corners tend to be a big one. And so, you know, if you maintain those, you can actually get away with blending the interiors quite a bit, and our brain will still understand the shape that it's supposed to be, as long as the corners are intact. And so I know that corners are a big one, and so, like, if you were to translate this to horses, you know, maybe it's the corners of the, you know, where the thing, you know, the joints, the elbows, the bony parts that point out. Like, that stuff's probably pretty important. Yeah. So I know a little bit of it, but it is hard. It feels a little bit more like trial and error for me though. So what is happening with this leg? Holy, that is not a nice leg shape. There we go. How are you, little Leo? Hope you're doing well today. Yeah, very monochrome painting today. I always like monochrome paintings. It's sort of a nice mix between painting in color and painting in black and white. I think it tends to make it easier. You're doing good? Oh, that's good. Glad to hear it. Maybe this one will have a little bit of a darkness right there. Look what I started again. Oh, let's take a look. Kath posted something. Oh, you're starting it over. Oh my goodness, Kath. Okay, did you measure twice? What's the phrase? Measure twice, cut once. The good old woodworking wisdom. Amazing, Kath. Bookbinding take 2. It's gonna be a book. Yeah, it's gonna be a book. Kath has a fun story about that. You measured so many times. Yeah. So for those who don't know, this is not to make light of the situation, but Kath may have made an entire book cover, did all the embroidery and everything, and it didn't fit the book because yeah, just a simple mistake caused the thing to not fit, not be the right size. So that, yeah, this is take 2. But I'm sure, yeah, Kath, that's fun though. 4 days of embroidery. Oof, oof. For nothing. No, it wasn't for nothing. It was for learning. For learning, right? That's what we like to talk about on this stream. Is you know, even the mistakes are there's some silver lining. You learn stuff. It's a mistake you'll make once, hopefully. So yeah, not for nothing, but yeah. Lil Leo says, just studying form more. Nice. Second time's the charm, right? That's maybe what they say. I think technically they say third, but, you know, who's counting? Yeah. Second time's the charm. No, I'm sure it'll be fine, Kath. Good luck with the cover. Yeah, good luck. It's a little bit loose. Or is it too mushy? I feel like this painting's mushy. Also, this character is not mushy, but just not very good looking. Do they wear hats? Should these ghosts be people with hats? Cowboys? Cowboy hats? Also, this person is kind of tall. Okay, let me look up, just out of curiosity, MTG Ghost. I know there's some ghosts in MTG. Magic the Gathering, by the way. Oh! Hydrate, thanks. Thank you for the Hydrate redeem. Azel Ruthven, how's it going, by the way? Also, I'm lagging. Holy crap. I'm lagging something fierce. I apologize if you guys are disconnecting or if I'm disconnecting. It's a me issue. I have too many windows open. We got raided earlier. Some stuff. Let me just close some windows. Closing that. Closing this. You said a bit tired, but doing all right. Oh, that's good. I'm glad you're doing well. Is this painting mushy or is it, what is it? Sploogey. Oh no, I hate that word. It is a little mushy. It's, yeah. I mean, it's supposed to be painterly, right? In lots of stuff everywhere, but it does feel a little mushy. Okay, anyway, I wanted to, here, let me save this first. But yeah, I want to look up some Magic the Gathering ghosts. So they always have a fun way of doing things. So for example, here's some ghosts in armor. So the ghosts are just like these spirit wispy things, but the armor is the form. So that's a fun way of doing it, where you have, it's very wispy, but because the armor is not ghostly, you can have these defined shapes. That's not something that I can really utilize. How else do they do ghosts? Here's another one. This one is much more, very well defined. This is almost too defined for me, right? Like this is a very like defined ghost shape, and then around the edge you have a little bit of a glow. And I don't really like that. I think this is too well defined for my taste, but that's a way to do it. Are these by the same person? No, they're not. How else do they do it? This one looks like a... I don't know who this is by. Could be... Here's another example. Again, very, very well defined. It's not super painterly. It is always fun to see. Yeah, imagine you're looking at very thin plastic bottle. Yeah. See, I think these are too... At the edges, there's more material. True. True. But these, to me, though, feel too well-defined. Like, they have light falling on them. Yeah, see, imagine you're looking at a very thin plastic bottle. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you would get more stuff at the edge. But again, I think... I mean, there's lots of choices on how to do this, right? I actually don't like these representations of it that much. I mean, I think they work for... Like, this one I like. I like how this works, right? So if you look at the actual ghostly stuff in this image, it is just basically wispiness, right? It's almost like flame. It's essentially just fire, right? You're painting blue fire at this point. I like that. I like the blue fire look, right? Almost just like a fire, except this thing is just happens to be more horse-shaped. These, not so much. I'm not going for this look. This look is... I don't like it for being a ghost. So the steeper the angle of the surface, the thicker the material, and less of the background shines through. Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I get that. But see, these, to me, don't really look like ghosts. I don't like this look. These don't look like ghosts to me. You don't see any overlap of the things behind them. This just feels like opaque. It looks like I mean, a little bit here, I guess. But a lot of this looks way too opaque for my liking. I don't like it. Oh, here's a fun one. I like this. This is a good... I like this wispiness. You again, it feels like more like fire. Now you have some spots that are defined. Right? You have some spots that are defined, but you also have some that are very, very painterly and loose. And they're kind of evaporating almost. I like this look. Lots of fog, lots of mist. It's kind of seeing how other people paint stuff. Here's one. Is this a... No, this is not. Oh, these are spirit animals in the background. Again, they're just basically silhouettes, so that's not much to learn from that one. Very flowy hair and clothes, really cool for him. Horses are taking over the world. Yeah, exactly. Uh, Fernella Chrysantella. I don't know how to say your name. Fernella Chrysantella. Horses are taking over the world. Very flowy hair and clothes are really cool for him. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of maybe a route that I want to take, is just a lot of flowiness. A lot of flowiness, a lot of, ill-defined shapes. I do think in terms of where we put the focus, yeah, I do think looking through like a thick bottle. But again, the thick bottle look makes it look very opaque, right? Not opaque. It makes it look solid. And I don't think I want it to look solid. I want it to look like a fire, where some of the spots you can almost see straight through it, right? And maybe the edges you don't even know where the edges are, right? I think the thick bottle analogy, that's making very defined edges, right? Whereas I'm kind of saying, well, what if the edges are what's getting lost, You can kind of see the form, sort of, but you're losing a lot of the edges in some spots. And that's kind of what I want to play with. Because I don't think, like, the ones that I do, like, these give me the thick bottle look, right? The arms, also they have lighting, which is weird to me. Instead of being the light themselves, it feels like they're being lit from the front, right? I don't think that's I mean, again, I'm not like hating on these artists or anything. They're all very good, and as far as illustration goes, it's very clear they're ghosts because they're blue, and there's that visual language they're using that signifies to us that it's a ghost. But I don't like that they have their own. I want them to be their own light source, right? I don't want it to be like you're lighting the thing from another spot. And I think when the thing is its own light source, you don't necessarily get a thicker light. I mean, you could, right? And I will have a bit of it. Like, this is going to be less bright than the outside. I mean, it's going to help that the brightness can be like the gesture and the outside edge, right? But yeah, no, it's still... I don't have it all figured out, right? Maybe I do want some more defined spots like in that one. I still think this is the best look, but again, this one has the benefit of having a lot of hard surface stuff too. And so you kind of have like the best of both worlds, right? You have these very defined shapes, but also this super wispy fire look, which I think is a really nice solution. Like, if I knew I was gonna design ghosts from the start, I think putting clothing and outfits on them would actually not be a bad solution. So, you put the clothing on them, you design them, and then you just make their bodies sort of, you put a hat, you get the hat on them, and then their bodies are just kind of like these wispy things filling up the space. That would not be a bad solution. Anyway. Lots of ways to do it. Now, the one thing that I do notice is that in almost all of them, their faces are still quite clear. Except this one, because he has no face. But I should probably focus on making some sort of head shape still kind of vaguely head-shaped. Just for storytelling purposes, And maybe some hair wispies. Maybe a little more green. Get the greenest color in here. There. I like that. I like that you can see a face a little bit. Probably should focus more on the horse shape too. I need a horse reference for that. I like that. I'm pretty proud of this one. This character here. You can even see the hands a bit. Some shaping of the form. Maybe there's an arm here. There, I like that one. Maybe the head's a little small. You'll find good horse references by looking up Uma Musume. Uma Musume. Is this the anime about the horse girl? The people who are horses? I actually know, I know about this. I do not think I will find good horse references from this. Considering these people are people and not horses. I mean, they are horses, but they're people. But I'm sure there are some horses in it, and I'm sure there are probably good horse references there. But no, I think just real life horses would probably be a better reference for that, if I do say so myself. And then we can stylize from there, however much we want. In general, I do like finding, real life references before like other artists. Obviously I found some like, approaches to like painting ghosts, because you can't just find real life ghosts. But in terms of the actual thing that I'm painting, I think it's quite useful. Yeah, I think it's quite good to look up your own, or find real references of real horses or whatever. But yeah, very funny suggestion. I appreciate it. I don't know if you were being serious or not. I haven't seen it, and so there very well could be good horse references in there. But given that I know that the people are horse characters, doesn't seem like a great reference. But I do appreciate it. Okay, what I'm looking at right now is I'm trying to find a horse face. Like this. Something so that when I'm painting this, or this, I can start to like, okay, well here's this bony area. The nose flares out. Also, that's not a very good one either. No, there are only horse anime girls, actually, as far as I know. God, there's not a single real horse in there. That's wild. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. Like, if they are horses, then why would you have also regular horses? But, I don't know. Also, this character looks like Batman. I just drew Batman on accident. He's on a horse. Okay, so this horse needs to have a side plane of the face. So we have this thingy. The cheek structure. And then you've got this. It's gonna be a little flatter. The side plane. I think we'll just make it white for now. And then this. Wait. Is that starting to be kind of like a horse? It's a big horse face. Kind of looks like a cow, to be honest. Did I just draw a cow on accident? I think I just drew a cow. And another character over here. This one will be looking to the side, I think. The chest, the shoulders. Maybe this character looks a bit more posh. This horse is also looking more to the side. And maybe the horse is looking to the side, this character is looking down. Maybe you actually can't see his torso. That'd be kind of a fun way to do it. A little bit more sparing about what shapes. Also, maybe this dude's hand is like, you know, classic you know, in that classic pose where you can see there's like some gesture going on. Maybe this character back here, again, we're getting a little bit nitty-gritty, but maybe there's a bit more of like a... You know, it's not bad. I'm kind of happy with how it's going. This character feels like the main character, but I'm not sure that... I mean, I'm kind of annoyed that it's not in the center here. Right? Like, why... Hold on, let me duplicate this whole thing. Like, why is this one not the main horse, you know? Because it's like, it's the most detailed. And I know I made a choice consciously to put this character, you know, facing behind us. But now I'm kind of regretting it. Now that I'm adding more because I didn't think I was going to add this much detail to the characters. I mean, I guess I don't have to. But yeah, that's not bad. I'm pretty happy with this overall. Some of these shapes and figures could probably use a little bit more defining. Sort of like when we do like buildings in the distance, we oftentimes put the silhouettes can be quite well defined, even though they're very light and painterly. There is a Phantom Steed MTG card. Let me Google. Phantom Steed MTG. Let's see how they paint their ghosts. I do enjoy looking at that stuff. Oh, that's cool. It's very mushy. Also, is this? Yeah. Very soft and painterly. Yeah. See, yeah, they have some defined shapes like the silhouette parts, and then they have like a very wispy. Also, this is like very low resolution image. This is better. Kind of. This at least has texture. But yeah, this you can kind of see how like the knees, right? The joints are quite defined, but then you have parts of the horse that are just like turns to wisp. This is closer kind of to what I'm wanting to do. Where you have just enough of it that's defined for you to tell what it is. Right? Like maybe the back of the horse is defined, but then the tail is just like a wisp. So yeah, that's not a bad one. Yeah, Magic the Gathering has a wide variety of ghosts, and honestly, I will say this is something where I mean, I get it because a lot of Magic artists are commissioned for all sorts of things, but I feel like ghosts are one of those that every artist has their own way of painting them, and I am not a fan of a lot of them. I think a lot of them are way too solid feeling. But again, a lot of that depends on the lore. And I'm sure there's a lot of art direction in Magic the Gathering when it comes to things like ghosts and that their sort of brand of ghost and how that looks. You know, if the lore is that they, you know, have taken on human form and live lives as humans and, you know, are indistinguishable from humans, then like of course you're gonna have a very solid, opaque looking ghost, right? Whereas if it's more of a spirit and that's like hard to see, then yeah, okay, you're gonna be more wispy, and like it kind of depends on the lore, and each Magic the Gathering is very rooted in like the planes that they're in, you know, which world are you in, and what are the rules of this world, and sort of what is the lore. And so yeah, probably a lot of it's based on that, so I can't be too judgy without knowing the goal, because, you know, if you were to look at all the ghosts of a certain set, they're probably quite similar. And that's probably more important than is it my brand of ghost, you know? So I'm definitely not hating on their ghosts. I just have my own preference when it comes to like personal how I like to see ghosts depicted. Or the Army of the Dead from Lord of the Rings? Lotro? Lotro. I don't know what Lotro is. What is Lotro? Lotro has similar green ghosts. Army of Dead. Lotro. Army of the Dead. Lotro. Lord of the Rings. What is Lotro? I don't know what Lotro is. Lord of the Rings O. What does the O stand for? Oath? Wait. I don't know. Lord of the Rings? Okay, I figured Lord of the Rings. I don't know what the O stands for, though. I was curious. Okay, it doesn't matter. But yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of cool ghosts out there and how they're depicted, and I actually should look more into it on my own time and not on stream, because there's just a lot of Googling and digging down the rabbit holes to archives of stuff. I do like a little bit of this gray in here. And I'm curious if I can't get more of that in there. Okay, let's work on the car for a little bit. Or maybe not. Let's keep doing the characters. Like, this character makes no sense. Let's get a higher up shoulder. Yeah, a lot of gesture, and I really do like the way of doing like gesture for characters and just having the gesture but no like actual form. I think it's kind of cool. Maybe a little bit of form like on the face. Okay, this horse leg, though, makes no sense. We've got to fix that. I find that interesting, you analyzing the art and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I've thought about ghosts in art before, because it's been a thing. Well, I've drawn ghosts in art before, or I've drawn ghosts before, but yeah, there's a lot of ways to show them. Okay, this horse, though, makes no sense. What's happening here? Analyzing is good content, is it? Oh, I appreciate. I'm glad you like it. I don't feel like I analyze stuff very thoroughly. I'm kind of just like going on vibes here, and I'm just kind of looking at it. I'm like, oh, that's kind of a look. Also, what happened to all my? I had a bunch of references here. I'm trying to find them. Oh gosh, here. Let's do this. Let's do sort images. Hold on. How do I do this? Images. Arrange. Optimal. There we go. I had some references of horses for like back legs of horses. Like this, maybe? So that I can draw like this leg of a horse. And also trying to make sure this leg is in a spot that kind of makes sense. But yeah, no, I think it's good to sort of analyze a little bit, especially like for me, it's funny because I'm actually not using much reference for these characters, which I probably should. But the horses are tough to draw for me. A little bit of a bony structure, I guess. But we also have like the belly overlapping. Does that kind of look right? I don't know. I'm not sure where it's grounded though. I think my whole perspective is weird here. I mean, it can come through the car, right? Like if I need to, it's okay to go through the car. I don't think it is. I think it's going behind it. Yeah, that's fine. Probably more important is that the silhouette here of like the neck is a little darker. That feels like an important spot. Now it looks like a donkey. Freaking donkey. We just... Oh my gosh. Just made it a donkey. I mean, it already has to look like a donkey, but... Yeah, no, I appreciate I'm glad you like me analyzing stuff. I just like thinking about it. horses have that classic flat ear thingy on the top of their heads. I think the head of this horse is way too big. And I know that I'm okay with the perspective being a little foreshortened there. In fact, I actually think that wonkiness will kind of work. Okay, let's try this. Let's move this down. No. No, no, no. That's bad. Can I undo it? I don't know what I'm doing here. I mean, it does need to be smaller. I think that's better. Now that was a cow look. It did. It does kind of look like a cow or a donkey. Kind of looks like all the animals, to be honest. Just a mish. And it's funny because like I don't need it to be super clear. Also, this pose is kind of a weird pose for this character, but it's kind of fun. It has a lot of movement to it. Maybe we go like that and bring this leg out more. I think just having this back leg in here could do a lot. Like that. So we almost don't even need this front leg. Just the back leg. Maybe. Maybe something like that. Kind of trying to... This is very indecisive. My choices here are so... like loosey-goosey, which is not great. That's not bad. I think that's starting to look better. Now, I think the head overall on this horse, if we could get some gesture going down, and it would make more sense. We're also kind of running into a tangent problem where the face of this horse is like running into the car, which is annoying. I don't think the positioning of this character was very good. There, we'll do that. We'll just cover up the horse's face. It's like putting oven mitts on a character because you don't know how to draw hands, or sticking them in a pocket. You put mittens on them, or you stick them in a pocket. Just hide the horse face behind the car. There. Make the neck longer of the horse. Yeah, but it's foreshortened and it's weird. Maybe. Maybe. I think you're right. Place head slightly higher? Maybe. I think you're right. I don't know what I'm doing. Drawing is hard, man. Drawing stuff I don't know what I'm doing is hard. Yeah, I do think slightly higher. Neck longer, slightly high. Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, I guess the shoulders come closer too. Give it more of an arc, yeah. I think also it's getting smudged here. The neck is very characteristic of horses. True. True, true, true. I mean, does it even more then? Don't mean to backseat. No, it's fine. It's fine. I don't mind it. At this point, though, I just might be in a... I don't know. I'm probably going to take a break on this one and come back to this later. This horse is giving me a problem. I think a big thing will help is to draw it in perspective properly and then put the car in front of it or wherever I need the car to be, rather than trying to like work around behind the car and like maybe the horse head goes here or here, but like wherever it is, it's hard because I'm kind of trying to paint around the car. So I'm kind of doing a bad job there of that. Maybe this person has their head looking upward. Okay, I do like that. Alright, I think this is a good spot to maybe call it. I know it's a little bit of a shorter stream today, but I can only work on one thing so long before I need a break. I liked it. I had fun today, though, with this. I think I've made an improvement. Here, let me show you. If I merge. We started with this, and then got there. So, we went from blobs to slightly more defined shapes. And also, this horse, I think, came out pretty well, given that we just added that in completely. So, yeah, pretty happy with it overall. It's coming together. And I think putting the horse here also helps. Yeah. This character probably isn't as... Well, maybe we can work more on the character right now, actually. I mean, all of my characters are not, what do you call it? They're all just freehand. No, basically no references for these characters. I have some, like, you know, like the riding pose, like, for the legs, but I'm not really using them because I'm not trying to draw the legs. Kind of like them blending into the horse. But some things, like maybe the hands here, a little bit of an elbow. Kind of fun. I do kind of like that this character is almost like a torso, and we can actually see through his torso more than maybe other parts of him. Or her, I don't know. Although we are looking up, so we should see... No, that's right. We should see less neck. Maybe that hand is too well defined. Yeah, that's not bad. I will say, I think because I'm the way I'm color picking, I'm probably gonna be, the colors are probably gonna be way too green in this, even with the brightness here. But like, I don't know. We'll see. I think there is a little bit of like grayish stuff back here that is pretty nice. It's almost showing up as red. And I think trying to preserve some of that is going to be useful. To kind of go back in here and sort of push out some of those grays to feel a little bit, you know, balance out the color a bit. There. I think that's good. And yeah, I think that's a good spot to stop for today. I'm a little tired. I'm hungry. And I'm happy with the progress. I don't know if I'll work on this more on stream at another time. I probably will. Because I do want to finish this and I want to make it into a, you know. But I could also call this finished pretty soon. Like, I don't need to, you know, maybe just some shape stuff up top, figure out what some of these are. Like, is this a building? You know, if so, maybe I do some very basic, you know, making a spire up there. Like, I don't think it needs much. Maybe this could be more center. Actually, maybe we do something like that. I don't know. But yeah, no, I don't think this painting needs much. Just maybe some subtle things. Because it really is supposed to be pretty painterly and loose. And by supposed to, I mean I want it to be. But probably could do some finessing and cleanup. Just, you know, making the brushstrokes a little bit more intentional. Smudging them in some places, blurring it in others. You know, softening, hardening, all the things. Alrighty. Well, yeah, if you're on YouTube, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the lurks. I appreciate you all. Next stream will be on Thursday. Hope you all have a good rest of your week. When did you start art seriously? Oh, question on YouTube, right as I'm trying to end. I started art, I mean, 13 years ago. So 2020 or 2013, I guess. I got my tablet in December of 2012. And then I didn't really start art for another year, but I kind of started watching videos and like watching YouTubers and trying to figure out like basically realizing art's a skill then. So I would say at 2013, but every, you know, it's not every year is the same, right? Like some years it's more focused and I feel like I learn a lot more, and other years it's a little more chill. You know, it's not like crazy amounts of art learning every single year. But it's regularly thinking about art, I think, and realizing I can learn it. And so thinking about learning art was a fairly regular thing throughout those years. So 13 years. But again, I'm still learning and I got a long way to go before I'm anywhere that I like, oh, I don't think I'll ever be like, I've arrived. I've made it. I am where I'm always trying to improve. And so, but I do like, I'm pretty happy with where I am in terms of skill. Anyway, thanks for hanging out.